All right, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. SQL Dev WA here, and we are a bit under the weather, if I'm being completely honest, even though there's a hurricane coming towards where I am. I'm also a bit under the weather, so I'm hoping this goes okay and I don't need my inhaler today. What's going on? Well, I got a notification from the owners of SimRacing Telemetry during the week that they had launched a new version, and I thought it had been a while since I did any SimRacing Telemetry stuff. It's been an even longer while since I did anything regarding actual sim racing. I think my last stream was maybe 2 months ago, something like that, about sim racing itself. But I figured I could keep going on the PowerBI side or on the SQL side with the telemetry. And so I've been having quite a lot of fun sim racing over the last two to 3 days. I am using the Super Kart, which is basically a go-kart with 250 cc's that goes up to about 250 kilometers an hour. That's about 155 miles per hour. And so I've had a lot of fun with it, managing different classes, like different opponent classes like Formula 1, Copa Truck, which are the huge semis, IndyCar, GT classes, and me being in this small little cart going 155 miles an hour, being passed like I'm standing still by all these other cars, has been quite an adventure. So I did all that just so I could gather telemetry data, and so we're going to review some of that telemetry data. I actually started a report about it this morning, and I got to a point where I was like, okay, this is a lot. And so I want to be able to, as I go through it, before I get too far, I want to go ahead and share it. The topic here is Fields Parameters. Now, Fields Parameters are a very intuitive and very user-friendly feature in Power BI. They're not so much developer friendly, but they're very user friendly, and it's very user convenient. It takes a lot of effort to put together, but once you do, it makes things really, really easy for the user, not for you. Morse314, how are you doing? Great to see you. Telemetry, I barely knew her. Nice. Yeah, we're doing some telemetry work today. It's great to see you, Morse314. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get right to it. First, I'm trying to do some gear checks since I have so many keyboards and so many mice. We're gonna do a quick gear check. I'm gonna try to change it up every single stream. This stream, it is Logitech MX Mechanical. I've had this one for more than a year now, I think. I got it like the week it launched, something like that. It's been really, really good. I do like the Logitech MX line. Here is the MX Master 3S mouse. I also like it very much. And the Delta Hub IO wrist pad, which I enjoy using because it keeps my wrist resting. Sure, something like that. But yeah, the MX Mechanical is really nice. Good feedback. A bit pricey for what it is. I'd rather do like a Keychron or something like that, but the MX Mechanical is really reliable, and it has a lot of customization through the Logitech G Hub app, I think, or Logitech app. I don't know which one it is to control it. I like that you can switch devices because I'm constantly switching between work and this setup here. So yep, great one. And then my HyperX Cloud 2 buds. I actually have the red ones on right now, but these are the black ones, which I also got. Super happy with this because I have Morse314 says sponsored by Logitech. Unfortunately, it's sponsored by my wallet, but it also means that I can be as objective as I feel like and not get into any sort of trouble, right? I do have quite a few Logitech devices. So yeah, the earbuds are really good because of the fact that I get vertigo and labyrinthitis very easily. I can't have anything like shoved into my ear canal, and so these HyperX Cloud 2 earbuds are really good for that. Really like them. All right, let's head into the report. So let me go ahead and open it up on my side too, because you're seeing what I'm not seeing yet. Okay, there we are. Okay, so here's the report, and as you can see, it's just a bunch of stuff shoved into a page. Now, if you want to take a look at the report itself already in its current state, I will go ahead and drop a link because I already published it just in case. Here is the report in its current state right now. This is not going to be, by the time you watch this video, if you're watching it on YouTube, you are not going to see this version of the report unless I publish a different version. Maybe I'll keep them both. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But here's the current version. It's just a bunch of data shoved into a page. And so it's a bit of a mess. But again, the purpose of this is not to create some like super clean design. There's plenty of like examples that you can find on Google Images. For some reason, I decided to use Bing Images for this. Not sponsored by Bing. I can't imagine why I would get sponsorship by Bing. All right, so you're more than welcome to like look at these visual aspects of the reports and do that. This is not going to be that, folks. This is just going to be me shoving a bunch of data into a report. I'm going to make this again from scratch, just so you have a good idea. But the point of this is field parameters, again, to make the user experience a lot easier. And I'll show you what that means in a second. First, let's go to how I pulled this data. SimRacing Telemetry, again, as I mentioned before, they just got a new update. Not sponsored either. I'm just a happy customer because this allows me to have fun sim racing, but then also export the data and make these videos about topics that I like. Because again, the best project for PowerBI, for your portfolio, is really going to be a project that you're interested in. You can be interested in music, you can be interested in movies. Last week I did a report about Kobe Bryant shot selection. That was a lot of fun, and I just published a video yesterday to YouTube. I get to do the cool hey, check out that video. It's going to be up there if you're watching on YouTube. So that was a lot of fun. I was able to really explore a new topic that I hadn't explored before in basketball. I'm planning to do some more sports as well. Football, baseball, perhaps, that sort of thing. But I get to do motorsport today, which is, again, one of my passions. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, my game of choice, I have two of them. Cedo Corsa Competizione, which is GT3 and GT4 races. And then Automobilista 2 is really, God bless the Brazilians, man. They know how to make a really good game. This game allows you to pick really any class of car that you can imagine is in motorsport. Anything from, like I said, supercarts, which is what I picked, to GT3, GT4, 90s GTs, F1, IndyCar, Formula semis or Copa trucks, all sorts of cool ones, and you can combine them all in the same race, which is even more fun. Because again, that's what I did, is I was in a go-kart and I was racing against all these huge and fast cars. It was so much fun, and the VR support is fantastic as well. It's just an overall great experience. So if you haven't played Automobilista 2, highly recommend it. It's so much fun. All right, so here's what their session recorder looks like. Basically, all you have to do is just hit record, and it'll record any session that you're doing in the game. And so you can see last night here I was messing around at Azure Circuit, which is the sort of, I don't know if they have a license for it, but it's Monaco. It's basically Monaco. Then we have Laguna Seca, we have Indianapolis, we have Spa. Just lots of different sessions that I've done over time. If you end up being interested in what you're seeing here today and you want the raw data set, let me know. If you want me to create a brand new data set for you, like a 20-minute race, a 2-hour race, if I can if my arms can take that long, because the force feedback is really tough on your arms. Any car, any track that you see in Automobilista, if you want me to create the data for you and send it your way, I would be happy to. Just let me know. Send me a whisper. If you're on YouTube, drop a comment here, same thing, or contact me via email at sqldevdba.com. Okay, so what does it look like? I'm gonna go ahead and open up the one that I'm using for this report, and that was a Spa Superkart race, and I want to say it was this one here because it's 5 laps. Yeah, it's definitely that one. If I open that one up, each lap has its own statistics, and that's really cool. They have some like initial telemetry that you can check out, which is really cool. Lots of stuff about brake percentage, steer percentage, RPM, velocity, etc. But one of the options is for the entire session, as you can see, you can actually share, or as I did, export to CSV. When you export to CSV, here's what it looks like. As I wait a second, it'll basically just export to a CSV. You can name it whatever you want, and then it'll export. Now let's take a look at that file and what it looks like. I already have it here in my telemetry exports folder, and as you can see, quite a few exports. I'm gonna right click it, and I always recommend you open this with Notepad++. You can export, you can open it with Excel, but if you do, just make sure you make a copy of it first, because Excel loves to, that's right, ruin CSV files and, you know, get you fired or in trouble or whatever. So here's what the data looks like. It is a tab delimited CSV file, tab delimited, which means between all the columns are tabs. As you can see, I can't click on any particular piece of this. I can only click on one or the other, which means there is a tab here. Now, how do you identify those tabs? I think if I say view, show symbol, and all characters, I should be able to see that arrow here, which is again, that tab. That's how you know it's a tab delimited file. All right, so we have the data here. It looks really cool. Now I also want to open it with PowerBI. And again, I want to show a couple things like how to make this map. This map's really cool to make, and it shows a really cool visual representation. You can do the color formatting that I have here. This color up here is formatting it by speed. So the darker it is, the faster I was going. And then down here, same thing, speed in kilometers instead. So oh, sorry, the one on the top is throttle, and so depending on how hard I had the throttle pressed, anywhere from 0% to 100%, that's how dark it is. And then down here is by speed in kilometers. And that is an interesting segue, because depending on where you grew up, depending on how much you know about metric units of measurement, you might prefer to view these reports in kilometers and miles, or liters and gallons, or bar or PSI. And then what's the fourth one that I have? There's actually a lot of different units, but it would be Celsius and Fahrenheit, because all this racing telemetry comes at you. In just 5 laps, I think I managed to create like 40-something thousand records. 40-something thousand records. I think it takes like 10 snapshots per second. Like it is a lot of data that this thing spits out at you. You can actually see it right here. If you look at the file, you can actually go all the way down to the end using the scroll bar. Look how tiny that scroll bar is over here on the right. So basically 48,952 records. That's how many records we have at our disposal for just one session, 5 laps. That's all. So it's really cool that we're able to use this data. Now, let's go ahead and just start building the report. Again, what we're going to look at is units of measurement and how you can use Fields parameters, and also another special trick to switch back and forth so that your users have a nice experience. Now, again, I got pretty far in this before I stopped myself and said, I gotta share this out instead. So let's take a look at where I am. I'm here. Well, here, but I'm also in a particular place on my report. So here's the metric page, which basically has all the units in liters, in kilometers, in bar pressure, and in Celcius. And so this is great for someone who readily understands. And the reality is the world of motorsport pretty much operates in the metric system. Now, for those of us who may not be as familiar, then I wanted to create an Imperial page that shows units in miles per hour, units in gallons for fuel, units in PSI for pressure, and units in Fahrenheit for temperature. But then that's a lot of work for the user as well. Showing the same thing, it's wasted real estate. It's just not a great user experience overall. And so I wanted a way to switch between the two in the same page. And that's what this third page is. If you're following along, it's page number 3 in the link I sent. This page, if you look at, I got just a little bit of the way through and then I stopped myself. So you can see here, this is the speed, and right now it's set to Imperial. So the speed here was -2 miles an hour, which was basically me spinning around and going backwards at 2 miles an hour. Because I think I was going through Eau Rouge and Radion and I spun. My average speed is 64 miles an hour, and my max speed was 144 miles an hour down the Camel Straight at Spa. So I wanted to be able to easily push this into the metric system instead on the same page. And so down here I have a sort of filter or a slicer. It's just 2 buttons and it allows me to pick one at a time. So here, if I switch this to metric, I can see that this was -3 kilometers. 104 kilometers was my average speed, and my max speed was 232 kilometers. And then as a special bonus, you can actually see here the tire temperature in Fahrenheit was 105, but in Celsius it was 40. And so I want to be able to switch everything because there's so many more things that you can represent here. Track temperature, ambient temperature. If I just filter in PowerBI all the temp, so I'm going to filter up here to temp. I can see brake temp, oil temp, track temp, tire carcass temperatures, tire layer temperatures, tread temperatures, and water temperatures. There's a lot here. And the same thing for pressure. If I just type in press, I can see oil pressure, fuel pressure, tire pressure, water pressure. So there's quite a bit of data that you can represent here in either metric or Imperial. Now, I must say, the reason this is a bit difficult is because of the fact that the data just comes in one unit or one set of units. And they're very explicit about that in their FAQ site. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the FAQ site and push it here into the chat as well. And basically their warning or their just information is that, hey, what we use, we deliver the files in CSVs, we use a tab to separate. They show you kind of how to export and import into Excel if you so desire. Sort of some initial guides like the bin index, which is the record counter, individual records, and they let you know, hey, all the unit of measures that we use, with the exception of temperature, are based on the International System of Units. So again, except for Celsius. Celsius is the only one that's not that way. And they give you an example of the velocity, which is measured in meters per second. So what does that leave us? That means to even get to kilometers, we have to translate meters per second to kilometers per hour, and then translate kilometers per hour to miles an hour. Same for fuel. like liquid amounts, we have to translate from the default fuel unit of measurement, which here is liters. We have to translate that to gallons. Same thing for pressure. Pressure comes in here as, I believe, and I'm going to ping the folks at SimRacing Telemetry just to make sure I'm not misrepresenting the data, but I believe it's in pascals. And so I took it from pascal to bar, barometric units, and then bar to PSI, pounds per square inch, for the Imperial system. So again, a lot of data to go through, a lot of conversions to make, and I wanted to go ahead and just stop myself and redo this, but record it. So if you're watching on YouTube, again, lots of chapters available for you. I'm going to try to get as detailed as I can with the chapters because there's just so much data here. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new report in Power BI, but I'll leave this one up just so I can refer back to it. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to open up a new version of Power BI and wait for it a little bit. I am on my sim rig. Well, actually, sorry. I'm on my data rig, which is this one today, which is a MacBook Pro M1, but I'm remoted into my sim rig, which is a desktop PC that I have specifically for gaming with 64 gigs of RAM. And if you know Power BI, you know Power BI loves RAM. So normally I'm on like this tiny PC, but for these demos, that tiny PC is really just starting to become a problem. If it's you working just by yourself, you know, developing, these tiny PCs, they'll be absolutely fine, especially if you have an 8 or a 16 gig one. Me, I'm doing streaming, I'm doing these demos in Power BI for you, and it just gets to be really taxing. So the computer takes a while. So that's why I'm on my same rig instead. But again, as long as you have a PC, you should be able to follow along. I will have the CSV files in my Google Drive, and I'll have them linked in the description if you are watching this on YouTube. If you happen to be here and you want the CSV now, let me know. I'll send you in a whisper or something. I'll send you a link to the Google Drive as well. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and create a blank report. And here I have options of what data I want to bring. I'm going to use the get data option up at the top, and I'm going to say I want a new text and CSV file, or import a text and CSV file. Now I'm already in the folder that I needed, and the one I want is AMS2 Automobilista 2 at Spa with the Formula Kart or Super Kart, and the date was September 22nd of 2024. I'm going to go ahead and open that. And one of the first things I want to make sure you do while you are importing, it's very important. Some of the data in some of the columns in the first 200 rows, which is what you can see is this is based on, might be blank. And if so, Power BI is going to do its best to analyze those first 200 rows and create a data type for you, but it might not do it very well, and you might struggle after a while when you're working in the folder. And then you have to go back and do all this additional work to like convert them into the right files or the right data type. So just be careful with that. What I started using instead is based on the entire data set. Now this will take a lot longer to evaluate, especially because of the fact that we have 40,000 records here. But in the end, it does a much better job of actually determining the correct data types. And you'll see that it actually, there's still some that we have to do ourselves, and that's absolutely fine. Not to worry, it's fairly simple to do. All right, so it's done evaluating the entire data set. I'm gonna go ahead and click load. And again, if you're on a slower computer, this may take a while. CSVs by their very nature take a long time. And so if you don't have 64 gigs of RAM like I do, it may take a while. This is SQL Server Analysis Services, after all, that it runs in the background, so just be cognizant of that. Okay, so we have our data. We can see on the right here, I'm gonna try my best to kind of get out of the way, but we can see, or I can bring it out here, I guess, and kind of go, nah. you'll see the data on your side, and that's the important part. But you can see all these columns. There's so many attributes, and there's also 40,000 records, so it's a lot of data that it just evaluated. Let's get started with one of my favorite things since I started doing it, which is drawing a map of the track. Now, you'd say, okay, well, hold on. Am I expected to do the same thing that we did in the Kobe Bryant report? Again, the Kobe Bryant report. Click that link and it'll take you to that, where I'm taking an image of the track or a layout of the track and superimposing data on top of that. And the answer is no. This is actually a bit cooler in the fact that SimRacing Telemetry records where you were in both X and Y planes, and actually even in Z planes, but we're not going to touch that right now because unless I got thrown up into the air, that doesn't really matter. I can show the height though. As I go down into Eau Rouge and up into Radion, I should be able to determine how high above sea level I was or something. We're not going to get into that. We're just going to draw a map, right? So for posterity, this is a quick tutorial on how to use SimRacing Telemetry to draw a map of the track and even add some color based on your throttle, based on your speed, etc. I'm going to do probably a quick clip of this, so that's why I'm saying it explicitly. Okay, so first we're going to add a scatter plot here, and I'm going to make it about this big. Now, I want to look at the data as it is in raw form. That's one of the first things I do. So I'm also going to add a table right below it. And what I want to do is add basically the first unit of, or the first categorization I can, which is the lap. So for each lap, I want to show, let's say lap, I think it's lap number? No, lap num. Lap num's the value I want. And it's going to show me like a sum of them. And no, I don't want that. I want to don't summarize. So I right click on sum of lap num and I say don't summarize. And now it shows lap 0, which was my formation lap, then lap 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which I believe was the cool down lap. So now what I'm going to use is called the location. So if I search for location, no, is it location? No, we'll get there. World position. I want to say it's world position. Okay, so if you search for world position, I'm gonna use world position X. So there's a couple of different ways you can add it. If a visual already exists, you can either drag it in like this, or you can just check it here on the right. So check. Or one more way is taking the world position Z and just dragging it into the columns area right here. And so you can see all of these values. Now, you'll notice that the summary by lap kind of just went away, and that's quite all right because we want one particular record for each position for when we put them into the scatter plot. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Here, we're going to go back to our scatter plot, and it has an x-axis and a y-axis. So I'm going to take world position X and drag it to the x-axis, and you'll see it's kind of nothing. It's just a straight line. That really doesn't help us. So I'm going to take world position Y into the y-axis, and you'll notice that it doesn't let me. Why is that? Well, it's because even though we tried our best, PowerBI simply could not determine the data type of the values that we're trying to use. So world position X and world position Y, you'll notice that they don't have any like numerical indicators on the left. Let's change that right now. All we have to do is click on world position X and change it from data type text up here at the top left to decimal number. It's going to ask us, hey, are you about to ruin the data or something like that? That's okay. Click yes. Now we have a straight line but has less dots. That's good, I guess. We're going to do the same thing for Y. Data type, decimal number, and yes. And now we get to drag Y with us. So So we're going to drag Y into the Y axis. And suddenly we have something that sort of resembles a track. But you'll see that there's a sum here. We don't want the sum. We're going to say don't summarize. And now we have the shape of Spa. Now, why did I go with this approach instead of just getting the track layout as we spoke of before and then just putting values there? It's because the way we're making this means that we actually get to be dynamic. It means I can go and put a data set about Laguna Seca and it'll take the track's form. I can go put one about Monaco and it'll take the track's form. So that's really cool, is the fact that we get to use sort of a dynamic data set and not have to worry about having to change too much. And again, this whole tutorial is about being dynamic. So one more thing I want to do with this one is use another value to control the color. Let's say I want to control the color based on the speed. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the speed. Oh, look, well, if I could spell speed, there's no speed. There's just slip speed of the tire. There's speed limiter, but that's not what we want. The column is called velocity. If you look at the tutorial, the FAQ, the documentation from SimRacing Telemetry, you'll see it's called velocity. Now, again, it's in meters per second, so we got to do some special stuff. Let's do that really, really quick first, and then we can add the formatting to the color. So what I'm going to do is go from their website. You can see the International System of Units. I went ahead and went to like unitconverters.net, and I got the formula for converting velocity to speed. And that is not here. Thought I had it. Speed, kilometers. That's what I get. That's what I get for not documenting things well. I'm pretty sure I have it over here in my loop document. Let's see. Aha, right here. Velocity to kilometers per hour is the velocity of X times 3.6. So let's go ahead and borrow that, and then we'll put it into our Power BI report. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to make a custom column, meaning for every unit, let's see if we can just spool up a table here as well. And we're going to, again, put the lap number on that table, right click it and say don't summarize. And then let's say I want the speed or velocity here. So I'm going to say velocity X right next to it. And we can see right here the velocity X. Now, how do we convert this? Well, all we have to do, and let's just do like a max per lap. Ooh, look, first, last, count, and count. What does that mean? It means it doesn't know that the velocity is a number, Power BI. So we have to fix that. Again, we're going to go to velocity X. We're going to click the data type, and we're going to say it's a decimal number. We'll click yes. And now it'll order it correctly. If you remember a second ago, it was like -1 and then 10. That means it was ordering it by text. When you order by text, the number 1 is the smallest of the bunch, or 0 technically. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then technically 11 is between 1 and 2 with text. Anyway, convert it to a number. Make your life easier. So when I convert it to a number, I can see that things are ordered better now. Here, what I'm going to do is right click on the very top up here and say new column. And this new column is going to be called speed in kph. I want to convert to kph first, and then I want to convert to miles per hour. So speed kph equals velocity, just like Excel, right? Velocity X times 3.6. Now I have to replace this velocity X with the actual column. So I'm just going to start typing velocity X, and there it is. It shows up in my IntelliSense. I click tab or type tab, and now I have my velocity. So I'm going to write a small comment using /* here, or you can just do the 2 dashes. I like to use /*, and I'm just going to say kph equals velocity times 3.6, and then close that comment up. And now I have my speed in kph. I could have named it velocity kph, but the reality is I want to make this user friendly for the developer as well. So I want them to see speed. Whenever they type in speed, I want them to see that readily available. Rod 720, how you doing, Rod? Hope you're doing really well. Thanks very much for being here. Thanks very much for joining. We are currently building a SimRacing telemetry report in PowerBI using data I collected from my SimRacing sessions a couple weeks ago. That's sort of stuff. Rod says he's lurking today. Thank you so much for the lurk. Really appreciate it. I'm doing really well, and I hope you are too. So now that we have our speed in kilometers, what we want to do while we're here, while our mind is fresh with it, we want to go ahead and create a speed in miles per hour for folks like myself who can't do the unit conversion very quickly. Now, all I have to do is right click here and say new column again. And now that I built my kph, now I can use that kph in another formula. So it'll be kind of dependent. I want to make sure I name it speed again, speed underscore mph this time. Why? So it's easy to find. So I'm going to say speed mph equals speed underscore kph, and we can see it's now here because I just created it. Tab that, and now it's multiplied by, I think, 0.62. Man, I'm not great at this, so let me just cheat over here. Okay, it's 0.62 something something something. So I'm glad I looked because that's a bit inaccurate. Okay, here we go. 0.62137119. You know, off the top of my head. But if you're in motorsport or you're trying to get a job in motorsports as a data analyst, you should probably know that. That'd be really important for you to know off the top of your head. You can forget someone, like one person's birthday. Just forget one person's birthday and remember this. Your phone can remind you about your birthday. Your phone can also remind you about what the conversion is, but you know what I mean. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and click check here to create this. And now we have our speed in miles per hour. So remember that table we had down here where we have velocity in X? Let's go ahead and add speed in kilometers. And we're also going to add speed in miles per hour. And there we go. Disregard this first one here. This record is just here as like a test record for the telemetry. It doesn't really mean anything. You don't have to worry about it. It's not wrong. If you want to filter that one out, you can always do so as well. I'm going to leave it in here just because we're dealing with the raw data set. So we can see velocity X is meters per second. Here's kilometers per hour, and here is miles per hour. As you can see, as the lap goes on, I go faster and faster. 40 miles an hour, 50, and again, this is 10 times a second at the very least that it's grabbing data. So you will see some very gradual increases here, but that's just because of the fact that it captures data so often. So why did I even build this? Again, because I want to be able to show the color of this map depending on how fast I was going, right? So how do we do that? Well, we already built a map. So all we have to do here now is click on the map and then go to the bar chart here with the little paintbrush. That's the formatter. I'm gonna go down to the markers section. And here you get to select the shape. So you get to change it to like triangles if that's your thing. If you want to make them squares instead, if you want to make them X's, I don't recommend that too much. I recommend just straight circles. You can do lines as well if you want it really, really thin. That's cool too. Dashes like this, that sort of thing. You choose what you want. I'm going to stick to small circles. And down here, you can also see the color. Now the color is going to be important because that's where we want to show how fast we were going. So instead of just saying red or blue or whatever, you'll see a little FX right here. That FX, we're going to click on it and we'll be able to show a gradient of speed. Now, what do we want to change the speed to? The gradient will basically just analyze everything and say, hey, the fastest speeds or the highest values, I'm going to put a specific color. The middle or the average speeds or whatever value you're analyzing, I'm going to have one specific color, and then the lowest values get a specific color. Sometimes you'll see, if you're watching Formula One especially, you'll see that after 300 kilometers per hour, the gauge that's measuring the live speed just turned to red. If that's your intention, if you just want to say, hey, anytime it's over 100 kilometers, make it yellow. Anytime it's over 200 kilometers, make it red. You can absolutely do that. Just changing this style to rules. And then here you'll get to add more rules, and you just have to add sort of a range, right? You can determine that yourself. But I'm going to choose gradient because no matter what car I'm driving, some cars have a way lower top speed than others, right? Like the Formula car I was driving has a top speed of about 250 kilometers an hour, while Formula One cars are 300 something. So I don't want to have to change that range. Again, this is all about making the report as dynamic as possible. So I'm going to leave it with gradient, and instead of the world position, which it defaults to, I'm going to choose the speed again. Speed in, let's do kilometers right now. And it's going to be, instead of the sum, you're probably going to want to choose the max or even the min per lap. That's really important. Change this from sum to minimum, maximum, or average. Why? Because the sum is a completely different unit. We don't look at the sum of speeds, right? We only look at the maximum value that was attained. And especially because we're recording data every 10 seconds. That's really important too. So the minimum value, I want it to be something like a little green, like a light green like this. And the high value, I want it to be like a red, but I want sort of a traffic light. So I'm going to add a middle color, and I'm going to make it like a light gold like this. And now you can see that the faster I was going, the darker it's going to be. Green means I was going very slow. You can see right here at the bus stop corner, that's a very slow corner, so I was going very slow. Here I can see that I was going quite fast because this is the Camel Straight. Eau Rouge and Radion as well, right here. I was going quite fast. I was trying to keep it pinned to the floor, but with a go-kart, that's not very easy to do, especially in VR, and especially when you have like huge trucks and super fast cars passing you on both sides. But one of the things I want to show here is that you can also filter this by lap. So as you can see, I have lap number here on the left, but there's a bunch of zeros. There's a picture of my daughter apparently that decided to pop up here from like 10 years ago. Anyway, lap number here on the left, it shows the same exact values lots and lots of times. That's not a good thing because it doesn't allow us to easily filter based on the lap. Let me see if I can actually adjust my notifications so that doesn't pop up more. I guess not. No. All right. Well, we'll just pin them. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and create a filter for my lap number. Nope, just lap num. And how do I do that? Well, I just have it nowhere. I don't have any visual selected. I'm just going to go ahead and drag it in here, and then I'm going to convert that to a slicer. And here we can see lap 0 to 5. It allows you to do a range of laps, but I don't want to do that. I'm going to go ahead and format it, click on slicer settings, and then click on two options really, tile and drop down. I'm going to click on tile so that they show as buttons. And when I reduce this in size, you can see that now I can filter on lap 1, I can filter on lap 2, lap 3, lap 4, and lap 5. As you can see, lap 5 is an incomplete lap. It was the cooldown lap and I just skipped it. Lap 0 was the formation lap, and so that lap 0 basically doesn't really count very much. It was just there to get us all in formation. And I think like one of the middle laps, this one right here, lap 3 was a scheduled yellow flag, which I think you can indicate. Let's see if there's a flag status here. Lap flag and flags status. Let's see what happens. I don't really know. What happens when we add those? Flag status and lap flag. And I don't want to summarize it. I don't want to summarize flag status. How do I do that? Oh, flag status, don't summarize. Flag status 32. I don't know what that means, but is it different than the other laps? Nope. Oh, look, it kind of is. 0 flags. I'll have to look into what the flag statuses are and see if there's any like yellow flag indicator or something like that, because it really is important to indicate that. Let's see if we can do a pit status. Did I pit at all during this lap? If this one shows that I pit at some point, yes. So my pit status is 1. That means I did pit this lap. And what does that mean? That means that this was the scheduled yellow flag, because I only pit during the scheduled yellows. All right. So we got a little off track here, but here's how you can use the map. Here's how you can draw it dynamically without needing to go get the shape. Now let's go into our units of measurement and how I was able to make those dynamic. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up a brand new page. And again, I'm just going to try to model this as close as possible to the report that I already have published. And let me go ahead and go to that one, steal the link and paste it here in the chat just in case. Nope, that's not what I wanted. There we go. I'll paste it into the chat here just in case anyone wants to take a look. Here's the current version of the report. Again, it's not the final version. You might not even see this if you're watching this on YouTube later on. But let's just start adding stuff. We're going to add minimum, average, and max speed cards. Let's do that. And to do that, I'm just going to click the gauge right here, or sorry, the card. You can also do it as a gauge, and I'll show you kind of what that looks like. But it's a little bit harder to put together, especially with our dynamic report and the fact that we want to make it very dynamic. So speed of kilometers an hour. 5.1 million. Don't I wish in my little supercart. What we want to do is we want the minimum. So we'll right click on sum of speed here. We'll make it minimum. And then we're going to make the size of this. We're going to change the size of the call out value to about 14. We'll change the size of the category label to about 8. And now we have a much smaller card that we can work with here. There we are. Now we're just going to copy and paste this and we'll put it right next to it. And then here we'll just change the minimum to average. And now we have the average speed of, again, the same exact value, kilometers. And here we have the maximum. So we'll right click on this, change it to maximum, and we are good to go. Now we have minimum, average, and max speed in kilometers right here. Now let's do the same thing for, I believe this was fuel in gallons, as you can see. And what we want is fuel in liters for the miles per hour, or sorry, for the metric system. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for fuel. Now fuel comes by default in liters. So what I'm going to do is actually just take a copy of this card that I had created here. And instead I'll look for fuel here and drop it right here. So this is again giving us first, last, and count. What does that mean? It means it doesn't know it's a number. So I'm going to click on the fuel. I'm going to change the data type to decimal number. Click yes. And now we have, again, the minimum of fuel here as a number. I'm going to copy this and put it right next to it. Oh, maybe not. Let's try that again. Copy and paste it. Then put it right next to it. And right click on this and change it to average. And then we're going to paste it again as right click, max fuel. So we went from 18.2 gallons down to not -1 because that's just a default value. If I bring in this slicer here, I can paste it here and even synchronize them, and I can see what my fuel level was on lap 1, for example. On lap 0, it was 18 gallons, so I started with 18 gallons. Then by the end of lap 1, I was at 15.4 gallons. Then here, lap 2, I went from 15.4 to 14.4. Lap 3, I went from 14.4 to 13.6, 13 to 12, and 12 to -1 again. But I was losing about 1 gallon of fuel per lap. That's what we can show here. All right, so again, this is already in liters, and then I'm just going to do one more visual here, or actually lots more visuals. These tire ones are quite complicated to do, so we'll do those in a second. But here we can see the max of fuel by lap. So let's really quick just do that. And then we have a max of speed by lap as well. So let's really quick just put those two together. Now, to do that, I'll just do a bar chart. And anyone who has seen my videos in the past knows that for bar charts, if there's no progression of time showing, I always recommend doing horizontal, so left to right bars. If you have a progression of some sort, then I do recommend an x-axis that represents that progression, whether it's dates or whether it's time elapsed. And because we have laps, those are synchronized or consecutive. And so we have a vertical bar chart that we can use here. And here we can say for each lap, so here I'm going to say lap num. I'm going to find lap num and I'm going to move it to the x-axis. And so that means for each lap, I want to show my max speed in kilometers. So speed in kph as my y-axis. And you can see it's only 5. And it's also representing a sum. I do not want that. I'm going to right click and say maximum. And that shows my max speed in lap 5, which is 191 kilometers an hour. Now, I want to show it throughout all the laps. So what I'm going to do is just release this 5 filter. And now we can see that for laps 0, my max speed, lap 1, lap 2, lap 3, etc. I want to make this a little bit easier to read. So I'm going to click on the format here and I'm going to click on data labels. And now we can see that in kilometers, it was 231, 233, 213, just decreased over the time. That could be any sort of reason. It could have been because my tires were messed up. It could have been because my car was messed up. I had a lot of damage. Any sort of factors could have played here, but it would be interesting to go watch the replay and see why. Usually your max speeds are reached kind of mid-race, and so I'd be interested in why my maximum speed decreased over the course of the race. Usually your car gets lighter because you have less fuel, and so your car weighs less and you can go faster. But obviously here that wasn't the case. Something very different with go-karts, right? So it's good to analyze. Anyway, here's the max speed. I'm gonna go ahead and make the title a lot smaller because it is something I didn't do in the other report. And I feel like it's like super huge, so that's not needed. What else can we do here? No, that's fine to leave as is. If you want to show, see how this says like 0 to 4. If it's something that you're like, you need to absolutely show the lap number down here, that's really easy to fix. All you have to do is go click on this again, go to the formatting of the visual, go to the x-axis, which is the axis here along the bottom, and change it from continuous to categorical. Continuous is there in case you have a ton of things in your x-axis and you kind of need to save some space. Here we don't have a lot, so we are okay to do this. Something that's very weird now that I see this is that it goes 1 0 2 3 5 4. Why is that? Well, it's because it's showing the maximum speed. That's how it's sorting things, and we don't want that, right? We want to show the progression of time. And so what do? We click on this ellipse here, we say sort axis, and then we change the sort axis to be by lap number. And now it's backwards, so we have to go in again, sort axis, and click to sort ascending. So now we have lap 0, lap 1, lap 2, lap 3, lap 4, and lap 5. And we can see again that I had a lower maximum speed for each lap. Now, next visual. The next visual is the fuel by lap. And if you look, I represented that with a line. So let's do that instead. Technically speaking, I can just copy this since I already put in all the work and paste it. Then I can change it to fuel. I can just go over here, find the fuel, and there we are. Again, looks really weird. I can't imagine I would have 0.1 million, like 100,000, that is, liters. So I have to change this to maximum. What was my max fuel level for each lap? You can also switch this to be your minimum. That's fine too if you so desire. Now you can represent it this way, and this still shows the regression of fuel, that my fuel was like running out about 1 gallon or 1 liter per lap. But you can also just switch it right here to be a line graph. And now I think this is a bit cleaner. You can also represent it not only as a line, but here as a stack, as an area chart. I think right here. There we go, area chart. And that shows just a bit more visually appealing. And that's absolutely fine if that's something you decide to do. Now, let's say I had a danger line at about 14 gallons. And I wanted to show like, hey, it dipped underneath 14 gallons here. That was an issue. All I have to do is create a constant line. And to do that, we'll go into the analysis area of the visual, and we will have a y-axis constant line. We'll add that line, and we'll say the value is 14, and we'll color it yellow. And we'll lower the transparency down to like 20, so it's a little bit more prominent. And now we can show, hey, anytime it's below 14, that's a problem. Here's how long it was under 14. And maybe the pit crew or the race engineers can make some sort of adjustment. That's a very common thing in the world of motorsport, that they have sort of tolerances or thresholds. And if you pass that threshold, it's time to pit and refuel. You don't have enough fuel for the rest of the race. That sort of thing is stuff that you should keep in mind. So I'll go ahead and leave that there. We're obviously doing a lot more than we did in this other report, right? So let's see what else. Okay, let's talk about tires. So as you can see, I have front left, I have front right, I have rear left and rear right. Now, those didn't always look that way. What I did was I actually created 4 cards of the same size and sort of visually represented them facing up or facing forward. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to run into a couple obstacles, so I will warn you that this will take a little longer than it seems. I already did it in the other one, but let's hop right into it, and I'll stop babbling. So again, we need to look at tire, what was it? Tire temperatures. Yes, I want to make sure. Yeah, these are tire temperatures, and then these are tire pressures. So let's take a look at tire temperatures. And what we will have here is a brand new card. You can technically just use this one if you want, right? So just take this card. It's already very small, and you can just reuse this. Now, let's take a look at pressures. And to look for pressures, we just search our data for the word press. And we can see tire press 0, 1, 2, and 3. And if you are new to data at all, you will know you will need to understand that the indexes for data sets usually start at the number 0. If you're a programmer and you're moving into data, this will not be a problem for you at all. But it's very important to understand what this SimRacing telemetry data means when they say 0, 1, 2, 3. So again, I will refer you back to the guide that SimRacing telemetry has. I'm going to paste it here one more time. And if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be here in the description below. But here is the key. When it says 0, it means front left. 1 means front right. 2 means rear left. And 3 means rear right. It's not tire 1, 2, 3, 4. It's tire 0, 1, 2, 3, and 0, 1, 2, and 3. That goes for the brakes. that goes for tire pressures. All of it is always 0, 1, 2, 3. And as you can see, some vehicles are two-wheeled vehicles. Those will have just 0 and 1. 0 for front, 1 for rear. So very important to know, and very important to keep in the old noodle there. All right, so let's make our first one, which is the front left. Now, what we're going to do is take this box here and we're going to change it to tire pressure. No, temp. So what were we analyzing here? Tire temp. There it is. Tire temp. What we're going to do is change this minimum of speed in kilometers. We're going to change it to temps. So here it is. And first, tire temp. Oh no, not again. What it did was it has it as a text value. So we're going to click on tire temp here on the right. We're going to go to data type at the very top. We're going to click on decimal number and click yes. And now it's a decimal. You can see it has decimal points. Let's just go ahead and do that for temp 1. Let's go ahead and do it for temp 2 and for temp 3. Now, if you'd rather measure the carcass of the temperature, that's fine. I'm assuming that because this is the carcass, that these are the internal tire temperatures because they have those inside the sensors that they have on the cars, right? So here we have the minimum of tire temperature. What I want is the maximum instead. So I'm going to right click and there's the max. You can also say the average. Average is probably a bit easier to work with. So let's do average tire temperatures instead. We'll click on this, copy it, paste it, and put it right next to it. Then we'll paste it again and put it right below and paste it again and put it as a small grid. And this will represent front left, front right, rear left, and rear right. That's how I made it in the other report. Now let's expand on that. So here, what does that mean? Right now I'm just measuring all 4 front lefts. So I have to change each one of them to be on the one that corresponds to the position. So tire temp 1 is front right. So I'm going to switch it there. It immediately goes to sum. I have to switch it to average. Then I'm going to click on the left rear and I'm going to say tire temp 2. Instead, right click on that, move it to average, and then right rear, tire temp 3, right click and average. Now we have the temperatures, but again, this is in Celsius. Rod says chat is quiet. I'm cool with that. Lurkers are my friends. All you lurkers out there, I am happy to have you. I'm absolutely fine with lurking. This is a bit of a co-working type stream, so I'm okay with quiet chat, but I appreciate you, Rod. I appreciate you being here. All you lurkers, I appreciate you being here too. Okay, so we have the right rear. That's all well and good. That's done. What if I want to do like a little bit of color on these? As you know, this right here has a color, and that's not just like I colored them orange. What that is it actually shows the temperature based on the minimum and maximum values. So how did I do that? Well, if I go to my report here, which, let's stop for a second. Let's stop. Time. I've been an hour into this, and I still haven't saved. Don't be me. Let's go ahead and just save this thing. We'll do SimRacing, Telemetry, Demo, Twitch, I don't know, version 2, final. This one, don't delete it. Right? That's how you name your files. I know you name your files like that. And then like after here, we'll pay like V4. Just V2 final. This one, don't delete it, V4. I know that's how you name your files. So that's how we're going to name them. Okay. So the colors. Let's talk about the colors of these tire temperatures. All we have to do is not even right click, just go to the bar and the little paintbrush, which is the formatting visual, and we will go to the call out value. We'll go to the color, and instead of picking the color, we're going to go here to the FX again, right? The gradient is the one that we want, although if it gets to a certain temperature, and that's what you want to look at and say, hey, mark it red if it's over 40 degrees. That's cool too. You can set up the rules. Let's go ahead and just do that, because I already showed the other one. Maybe for the brake temperatures, which is the other set of boxes here. No, these are tire pressures. Maybe for tire pressures we can do that, the gradient one. But for this one, let's come up with a set of rules. Let's say, and again, we're talking about Celsius here, so that's really important. Let's take rules and let's have 3 rules. Let's say if the value is from 0 degrees Celsius, which would be very cold, to about 25 degrees Celsius, we want them as like blue. So let's do that. So if it's greater than or equal to 0 and less than, what did I say, 20? Let's say I said 20. Then we want them sort of like a teal. You'll have to forgive me, I'm kind of color deficient, so I'm hoping that that's close enough. Then if the value is between 20 and about 45, then we can color them yellow. And if it's greater than or equal to 45, and notice how I'm saying greater than or equal to, this number matches exactly this one. Just keep that in mind. This is only matching, this is only allowed, this matching is only allowed because this is less than 20. So 19.999999 whatever. But if it reaches 20 and this is also 20, you'll have a conflict. Well, it'll try to be 2 different colors at the same time, and you don't want that. So I use less than here, and I say greater than or equal to here on the left. So if it's greater than or equal to 45, we're gonna paint it red. And what's it? Oh, and less than something. Here is where I get a little cheeky, and I just say, okay, well, if you need a maximum number, I'm gonna just keep typing 9 until it doesn't let me anymore, and then that's my maximum number. So I hit OK, and again, this is sum of tire temperature 0. You want to change that to, oh, it's already here. So I don't need to look for it. I just need to change this to average of tire temp 0. Hit OK, and it's yellow because it was in a particular range, right? So that was 0 to 20, 20 to 40, and 40 plus. Or was it 45 plus? Let's make sure before we do that. 20 to 45 and 45 plus. Okay, 0 to 20, 20 to 45, 45 plus. I need to remember that because I need to do it for the rest of these, right? No. Once you decide this for one of them, do yourself a favor and don't waste any time. Go to this. At least I hope this works. Otherwise, I'm building this up for absolutely no reason and I'm gonna look dumb. But I think this will work. If I click on this first one that I already formatted, I'm gonna use something called the format painter that's all the way up top here. Click on that and then click the one that you want to change, and there we go. When I go in here now for this other one, I will see the same exact rules applied. Again, do not waste time here, folks. I value your time. You need to go, watch another, watch Bob Ross. It's been a while since I said to go watch Bob Ross. Go watch Bob Ross. I'm pretty sure Bob Ross is online right now. It's okay. I won't be offended. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and go to this average of tire temp, and you'll see it's kind of leaking off the end. I don't want that. What I want to say is AVG or just tire temp in degrees Celsius. Do I really need to do that? No, I can just say FL for front left degrees Celsius. And that didn't take, did it? FL degrees Celsius. Then here I can say FR degrees Celsius. FR degrees Celsius. RL, and to change the names I just double click. RL degrees Celsius and RR degrees Celsius. Now that I changed the name, it's gonna be so hard for people to understand which column. Like future developers, they won't know which column I'm using. No, there's two ways for them to know. The first one is if you click on this, you'll see FL right here. If I hover over it, there it is. That's the raw column it's using. Also, if you look up to the right, you'll see that Tyre Temp _0 is checked. And that means that's the column it's using. Anytime you want to know what columns a visual is using, just click on that visual, hover over them, or scroll around in your data set and you will see the fields that it's using. There's lap number and speed. All right, so now again, we're going to go ahead and go to pressures. The pressures are right here. For each tire, we want to know the pressure, and the pressure's in bar. And you'll notice that there is no bar. When I go to press, which I'm just going to search for the word press, we have tire press. Let's go ahead and make a new card again. I'm going to use this top one and make it down here. And I'm going to switch the speed for the pressure. And this is again front left. 5 billion. 5 billion what? This is just way too much. Okay, I'm going to switch it to average. 93,000. The pressure is 93,000, and again, it's because the unit of measurement that it uses is pascals. So we have to write a formula that switches pascals to barometric units and then also to PSI. So for the metric system, we're going to use the barometric units. Now, I already have the formula, or at least I hope so. There it is right here. Tire press 01 plus 32. No, that's pressure. That's pressure. So I want pascals. That's pressure. That's a wrong one. I want pascals to barometric pressure. Let's see if I can grab that. I'm gonna bing it. Pascal to bar. Convert Pascal to bar. There it is right here. I think right here. 1 bar equals 100,000 pascals. So what does that mean? That to get 1 bar, I need to divide, or to get the unit of measurement in bar, I need to divide whatever value I see by 100,000. So let's quickly do that. Here, I'm going to take this value, and remember that I'm working with Tyre Press 0, and then right click on the data set, create a new column, and call it Tyre Press 0 _ bar. That way it'll slot itself right here, right underneath tire pressure, but it'll be with an underscore bar. So Tyre Press 0 bar equals, and here's the formula, it's Tyre Press 0 divided by 100,000. Make sure I have 5 zeros here. Yes, I do. And now I'm going to say 1 bar equals 100,000 pascals. And again, this is a comment just for my education and future me's that are developing this report or maintaining it. So now that I have the units in barometric units, I'm going to take that Tyre Press 0 bar and I'm going to shift it into here. And now we have the sum. I want to switch that for the average. And now we have 0.93 bars. So again, this is the metric system, so I'm going to keep it there. Now, I'm going to change this to front left. And to do that, I have to create all these formulas, right? They don't just come from me creating one formula. I have to create it for each and every tire. So I'm going to keep going here, but hopefully I can make it a little bit quicker. I'm going to go ahead and just copy the formula that's in Tyre Press 0 bar. Copy that, right click, new column, and I will say Tyre Press 1 bar and replace this Tyre Press 0 with Tyre Press 1. check it, and we are good for tire 1. Do it again, new column, tire press 2 bar, tire press 2. There we go. That's 2. And now for tire 3. And there we have tire 3. All right, so let's go ahead and switch these out. For this one here, I have press 1 bar. That's the front left or front right. Right click and switch it to average. And then I'm just going to copy these two and put them right below here. What that does is it actually doesn't let me align them easily. So just be careful when you're copying multiple objects. It doesn't let you align them that easily. All right, I'll switch this one to 2 bar and right click and switch them to average. And then here, average tire pressure, I'm going to switch it to 3. And then right click, switch it to average. So now we have our average for front left, front right, rear left, and rear right. Let's go ahead and change the names of these. So this is FL in bar, maybe lowercase, nah, just bar like that. FL bar, FR bar. And you might be saying to yourself, RL bar. I can't talk at the same time, by the way. BownerSoup, good to see you. Sorry I missed your message there, BownerSoup. Why did you choose to use a new column over a new measure? That's a great question, BownerSoup. It is because I want to analyze this data for each column, for each row. The columns will analyze the data and give you the formula at the row level. With the measure, you're doing it for whatever's being evaluated at the time, right? Overall, it's an aggregate. Just like in SQL Server, we have aggregates like min, max, etc. I just want a plain and simple conversion at the row level. The advantage to that is that when you export this data as just data, right? Export it back to Excel for further analysis, you'll still have that row level data available there for you. I can easily make a measure from it, but I can't go from measure to column very easily. So I can easily go from the column to the aggregate, as you can see as well in this card, by just right clicking and saying that. So I don't really have to create an average or a minimum or maximum or anything. I can just keep it at the row level. Hope that answers your question, but happy to answer any more that you have. All right, and we have RR bar as well. And again, you may be asking yourself, okay, well, how does any person that's not really familiar with motorsport understand that these are pressures now that we're working with? Well, that's fairly easy. All you have to do is just give them the ability to see that. So I'm just going to create a quick insert here, and I'm going to insert a shape, and I'm just going to make a surrounding box for these guys. We'll make the surrounding box maybe gray, like this. Go to the shape, maybe make a rounded rectangle and 5% rounded corners like this. Let's make the shape color gray instead, like a light gray like this. You know I love my light grays, the blandest color ever. Okay, and then border, also sort of make it a light gray. There we are. And now I can just move that up here and then hide it, right? No, well, I don't have to do that. I can go to view up here. I can go to selection and take this shape and drag it all the way down to the bottom, and that'll represent the layer that it's in. Now I can just take these four, hold control and highlight them all at the same time, and then I can go to the general area of the visuals and turn off the background, and now I sort of have a background-less visual that sort of blends into the gray there. I'm seeing now that maybe yellow wasn't the perfect color choice, so maybe I can save that by changing the style of this here to something like, oh man, am I stuck here? Maybe a super light What if I just make the transparency way lighter, like 60? Yeah, I guess that works. Okay. No, that's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. Let's just do a surround then. Nope, now I'm gonna stay like 3 hours just working on transparencies. Fantastic. Let's go back to gray and make these just bold or something, or change the value. Okay, that's what we'll do, is we'll change this from yellow to about orange. So we'll go to the call out value, we'll go to the function that determines the color, and from here, instead of the yellow, we're just going to do sort of a orange right here, and let's see if that's better. It's not going to be as good as the red, I guess. Okay, that's way better. Okay, so let's go home, format painter, and we'll format the rest of these like that too, right? There we are. So now we went to orange. Maybe we'll go to something like pink for really bad. All right, so now here, what do? I can do a text box and just say Tyre Pressures, this is Tyre Temp. And I can even say in degrees Celsius if I want to. And I could just shrink that a little bit and then put it right here. I'll make it about as wide as the visual, center it, and then I'll turn the background off. And now we have Tyre Temps, and I'll copy this text box. I'll copy the shape and I'll put it right down here below. And I'll switch from temperatures to pressures in bar. Now, right here, I'm just gonna bring these dies down and remove their backgrounds. But first and foremost, I have to make this shape go all the way down as well. And now I can click on these guys and I can go to general, effects, background, and turn that off. So there we are. Now we have Tyre Pressures in bar and Tyre Temperatures in Celsius. Now I did something really, really dumb. As I am describing what I'm doing here, we have to go back and remember how the goal of this was to make the report very dynamic and be able to switch from metric to imperial very quickly. And just for entertainment's sake, let's bring this guy over here, because I really like this that we did here with the kilometers. Did I just mess it up? No, I didn't. Okay, this is still in kilometers. Yes, I'm still, max speed kph. All right, so we have that. Now things are looking a little bit nicer, but again, don't spend too much time on this visual side, folks. It's how you fall into a rabbit hole. Okay, so again, one of the things I was trying to do was be as dynamic as possible. And what did I just do here? I forced myself to have a unit of measurement. You do not want to do that. Tyre temp, that's okay. And tire pressure, that's okay. Why? Because I have the unit right here. The units are right here. You don't have to worry about having the units be here. When you switch them over to degrees Fahrenheit and to PSI, you are going to see that those change. The little call out value changes underneath the header. So keep in mind, try to be as dynamic as possible, and don't hard code anything if you can avoid it. All right, let's take a second to save here. And let's go back to the report and see if other interesting things that we can find, such as, hate to do this now. No, we're not going to do it now. I was thinking of doing maybe lap times, as you can see right here. These lap times that I have, but right now is not the time. I'm trying to make sure that we cover the Fields parameters, which was basically the purpose of this whole video. But I'm really happy that I was able to expand a little bit more. And focus on these other topics. So again, Fields parameters. How do I dynamically change these units of fuel in gallons and liters? of temperatures in Fahrenheit and Celsius, pressures in bar and psi, and speeds in kilometers and miles an hour. Now, first and foremost, what I would basically, I'm going to show you what we would do in the long ago, maybe like 5 years ago or so, before Fields Parameters were introduced. Before that, we used to basically have to create multiple versions of the same exact visual and then use bookmarks to control the visibility, or just make it on a completely different page. So that's what we're going to do right now, is we're actually just going to make a completely different page. Now, I'm not going to bore you by going through this all over again. So what I'm going to do is just name this metric, and then I'll duplicate it and name it Imperial. And now we have the second page all ready to go. We just have to swap out the actual visuals, or the values inside the visuals. So minimum of speed in kph, let's look for mph. Do we have it? We don't. Oh, we do, because I went ahead and created it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and replace it right here. Speed in mph, that's going to change to minimum. Speed in mph, again, I'm going to copy it over, and average in the middle, yes. And speed in mph, I'm going to drag it in and say maximum. So now we have our minimum, average, and maximum speeds in miles per hour ready to go. Let's do the same thing for fuel. Fuel's the one that I'm pretty sure we don't have. So fuel, yeah, there's nothing here. And again, I try to name my columns exactly the same, just with a suffix of whatever unit it is. This one just happens to come in at liters, so I'm going to leave it at liters. Or I'm going to leave it with no suffix, and that will indicate liters. So how do we make fuel in gallons? Well, I happen to have, again, the formula here, because I already did it this morning, because I don't want to waste your time. Okay, right click, new column, and I'm just going to name it on the far left here. I'm going to say fuel underscore gal for gallons equals whatever the fuel is times 0.264. Again, I'm not going to memorize that. I'm going to write out fuel again, click tab, and now the fuel column came through. And there we are. Now I have the fuel in gallons, and I can just pop it right over this, right click on it and say minimum. Do the same thing for this one, fuel in gallons, right click, average, and this one will be the maximum. Right click, max. And there we are. Now I have to do it again here, right? This has to be the max speed in miles per hour. So here I'm just going to search for miles per hour, and I'm going to replace this right here. Max speed kilometers, I'm going to get rid of that, and here I will say max. And there we are. Now we have speed in miles per hour, and here instead of liters, we need the fuel in gallons. So I'll search for gal, drop it in here, right click and maximum, and get rid of the liters. And now you can see the problem with writing constants, right? Is I had that line set at 14, and now I have to sort of swap it, and I'll go to swap it here in the constant line and say, I guess if I'm under what, 4.5 gallons or something. There we go. If I'm under 4.5, I'm in danger, or under 3 maybe, something like that. Under 4.6, no, under 4. That's about halfway, so that's okay there. All right. So you can start to see the danger in having constants in a dynamic report, right? Max of speed in kph. That's what was driving our color, right? We need to switch that. We'll go to markers here in this map, and we will go to the color, which I believe you can still see. Yes, we'll go to the FX, and instead of speed in kph, we're going to search for the word mph, and we'll do this all over again. Remember, the sum cannot be the sum. It has to be the max or the average or the minimum. That's fine. Just don't have it be the sum. We are not dealing in dollars here. We're not dealing in sales. We're dealing in metrics. We're dealing in telemetry. So sum of something isn't really going to help us. Hit OK. And now it's switched over to miles per hour. That was a pretty easy switch, right? For at least fuel and temperatures. But when we go to for fuel and for speed, but when we get to temperatures, that's when it starts to become a lot of work for us, and it's going to be even more work because we're going to make this dynamic. So let's quickly make the Celsius to Fahrenheit calculations, right? What we're going to do is we're going to look at temp, and we're going to find the tire temp 0. Again, that comes in as Celsius. We have to convert it to Fahrenheit. So I'll have my handy dandy formulas here. Go back to the report, and I will create a new column again. I want this new column to be called tire temp 0 underscore FH for Fahrenheit, or you can just say F, it's up to you, equals tire temp 0 tab times whatever this is supposed to be. So we can see that the formula, I'm gonna go ahead and comment out the formula so we can keep it, but the formula is whatever it is in Celsius times 1.8 plus 32, and you can see that there's parentheses around here to ensure that you do order of operation. So please be careful and make sure you do that. I'm gonna wrap this in a parentheses. I'm gonna multiply it by 1.8 and close the parentheses, add 32, and now we have our data in Fahrenheit. Let's go ahead and swap this one over first to make sure we check it out. There we are. Right click and average 105 degrees. That sounds about right for a tire temperature. Now we have to go through and name this one too, right? What's the value we're trying to name it? FL degrees F. There we are. Now here, the important part is that we have to do it for all of them. But again, we don't want to waste time, so I'm just going to copy the formula. I'm going to right click, new column. Right here, tire temp 0 will become tire temp 1 FH, and this will also become 1 FH, or just 1. Click go, and you are all set. Right click, new column. I wish I could just do like magic where all of these come in, but if I did it magical this way, you wouldn't see how lengthy this process is just to be able to accommodate the user. But again, this is kind of what we get paid for, folks. This is kind of what we get paid for. This is why you get the big bucks. Not me, you're getting the big bucks. I know you are. I've seen your Amazon cart. Some crazy stuff in there. All right, so one more. No, we have all of them. 0, 1, 2, and 3. Let's start swapping them out. We're gonna do 1, and that's gonna be FR degrees F. 5.9 million, huh? It's a good thing we have to switch it to average. There we are. Now we have 2 in Fahrenheit. That's gonna be RL degrees F, and the last one is 3. Remember, they go 0, 1, 2, and 3. So tire temperature 3. Right click, average, and then we say RR, which is rear right, degrees F. We got that rear left at 5.38 million degrees Fahrenheit. That's probably not a good thing, so let's swap that to average, and there we are. Now we have our tire temperatures in Fahrenheit. Now, tire pressures is the last one we'll do, and then we'll dive in to how we do this dynamically and have the user be able to swap. Because right now, what does the user have to do? They got to go over here for metric. They got to go over here for imperial. And that's not horrible, right? It's not terrible, but we could make it a little bit more convenient, save some real estate, save some pages, so it could just be one page, etc. All right, so let's do this again. For bar is we need a formula for bar to, is it this one? Bar to PSI. No, it is not this one. No, it is not. I documented this terribly, didn't I? I sure did. Okay, let's try that again. Oh, and there's SQL Server decided to show up. No thanks. At least not yet. we'll see how the day goes. All right, let's just quickly go to bar. Oh, here it is, bar to PSI. Let's see if we can find it. How to convert bar to PSI. 1 bar equals 14 PSI. That's all. So what do? We have to multiply whatever we have in bar by 14 point whatever, and we'll be good to go. So let's look for the press. Again, we have tire press 0, 1, 2, and 3. Front left, front right, rear left, rear right. And we're just going to add PSI versions of those. So I'll right click, I'll say new column, and we will name the column tire press 0 PSI equals, and then we'll paste this because the formula is whatever it is in bar times 14. This is going to be tire press 0 bar times the 14. And now we have the tire pressure in PSI. Let's go ahead and swap that in right now just to check our formula. We're going to grab tire press 0 PSI. We'll drop it right on top of that. 600,000? No. Right click, average it out. 13 PSI. I believe that is about right. Remember, this is a go-kart we're talking about. This is not, a supercar. It's not a Formula 1 car, etc. It's just a go-kart. If you're watching and that doesn't look right to you because you know a lot about supercarts, remember, not supercars. By the way, here's some quick info on supercarts. I'll go ahead and post this to the chat if you're curious. But basically, they're tiny little go-karts that happen to have a 250cc engine, and they go about 155 miles per hour. Imagine being in VR, going 155 and being passed like you're standing still by like an Indy car or Formula 1 car or even a truck. I'm glad it was in VR because, man, that made me really, really nervous. But I can't seem to find any info on the tire pressures. I'm sure there's around here some, but I'm fairly certain I confirmed it yesterday at least, and it looked right. So I'll get right back to the report instead of wasting your time with that. All right, so here we are. 13.54 is the average tire pressure. Now what we're going to do is double click on this and say FL, right, for front left in PSI. And then we just do that again for each one of them. So I'm going to make the formula. I'm going to copy tire pressure zeros formula, right click, new column, swap out the zeros for ones, 1 and 2. Do it again, right click, new column, tire press 2, swap out the 0 for 2, and there we are. And tire press 3, which is the last one, right? It's the right rear. There we are. So what are we going to do now? We're going to swap them out really, really quick. Tire pressure 1 PSI goes here. I will swap this out for average. I will say this is FR in PSI. Nope, I did it to the wrong one, didn't I? Yep. That changes the name. And that sets it back. And what do I do to confirm? Here's tire pressure 1 still. It's probably easier just to dump the 0 back in. Right click, average. And now I could say FL in PSI. Let's make sure I have the correct one selected, right? This is still bar, so I need to swap it out for PSI. Right click, average. I wish there was an easier way to do this, but there really isn't. FR PSI. Tire 2 in PSI. This is RL PSI. Right click, set to average. Nope, that's minimum. We're going to set to average. And there we are. Now, tire pressure 3. Right click, average, and rename it to RR in PSI. Okay, so we are done with our swapping over to Imperial, right? We went from metric where we have kilometers, liters. Maybe I should swap this to say at least liters, or just put a box around it that says fuel in liters, right? That's cool too. Then we have our temperature in Celsius and our pressure in bar, and everything here is based on metric. And then we have our new page that has imperial. Now, there's a couple ways to swap these out. Again, the way we used to do it, and this is really simple, so I don't mind showing it, is we actually just used to have like something like a page navigator or a bookmark navigator or just a button of bookmarks. And if I add this right here, insert, and I say buttons, navigator, page navigator, what I'll get down here is a navigator of pages. So you'll see page 1, metric and imperial. So if I wanted to just make this a metric and imperial button, I would just go here to pages, show, remove page 1, and bam, now we have imperial and metric. I would make this a lot smaller, of course, and then it'll just take me to this page. But now this is gone, so I have to make sure that whenever I do that, I put the slicer or the buttons on both pages. So let's say I wanted to have them down here at the far right corner. If I go to metric, it goes to the metric page, and if I go to imperial, it goes to the imperial page. So this is okay. There's nothing wrong with this. Remember, you just have to do double the work, right? For every change you make on one, you have to make it to the other as well. So just it's okay. It's okay to do it like this. It's quicker. It's quicker to implement, but it's tougher to maintain. So just be aware of that, and that's okay. All right. So now, what are we going to do now? Now we're going to make these fully dynamic. And my God, it's been an hour 40 minutes and I still haven't told you how to make these dynamic. It's a good thing if you're on YouTube, you could just use this. For those of you who are on Twitch, I deeply apologize, but also I'm not sorry. If Bob Ross is on, folks, you can go watch Bob Ross. I like to watch Bob Ross. Thanks for hanging out though. Really do appreciate you being here. Yeah, I'm hoping you find this at least useful. If you have any questions, you can feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'll just keep on babbling. All right. So let's go ahead and make a third page, and we'll call that third page Field Parameters. Field Params. Field Parameters. Okay. Now, this is going to be one singular page in which we have both metrics and imperial units, but we are going to control it with a button. And so first thing I have to do is, actually I don't have to remove it from here, that's fine. I'm going to make one more page just to show the easy side of field parameters, and then we'll go through what sort of limits field parameters have. Unfortunately, they do have limits, and we are about to show how we reach those. So I'll make one more page and I'll call that field param easy. Okay, now again, let's just do a very quick and easy table. The tables are probably the easiest way to show field parameters in action. So here I have a lap number, so I'm going to add my lap number. It's going to go as a sum. I want it to be don't summarize. There they are. Now I want to show all my kilometer units, or all my metric units, and all my Fahrenheit units, right? So let's do that. Let's do kilometers first. Then we have bar. Here's all my tire pressures. Let's make that a smaller table. What else do we have? Temp. We have our tire temps in Celcius. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we have our, what else is it? We have pressure, fuel in liters. And the fuel, I want to go ahead and have it up here. So we have speed and fuel, and then all the pressures and all the temps. Now, you'll see again, sums. I don't want sums. I'm going to average these. I don't want don't summarized for these either. Just to be sure we understand, I do not want don't summarize, because when you don't summarize, what are you going to show? you're going to show this entire data set. All 40,000 lines are going to come up. So that's really important. Switch all these to average. You can do min, max, average, whichever one you want, as long as it's in aggregate. And this is where BownerSoup's question of why we're not doing this as a measure comes in. If you want to do them as your measure, you're more than welcome to. Rod says, how long are you on today? Honestly, not really sure. Probably another hour or so. I don't want to make this too long because I'm going to upload to YouTube, but probably another hour or so. It depends. It really depends. I have a pretty free afternoon, so I'll be around. I appreciate you sticking around. Feel free to lurk. Feel free to go watch Bob Ross. I'm telling you, if it were me, I'd be watching Bob Ross right now. There's just give that man a paintbrush, and man. Anyway, all right. So I'm gonna copy this. Rod says I gotta go. About to tinker with some Steam stuff. Sounds good. Have a great stream. I will see you next time. Take care. I might pop by yours as well. All right. So Rod says later. Have a good one. Okay. So let's go ahead and create your secondary table and show, instead of the imperial units or instead of the metric units, let's put them in imperial. And then we're going to make a third one that allows us to swap. All right, so we're going to add speed in miles per hour. We're going to add fuel in gallons. Let's add the lap number as well. We forgot that one. Lap num. And don't summarize the lap. Don't summarize the fuel. Change those to average. There we are. Now we're going to add the pressures. I think it's the pressures. We're adding the pressure in PSI, 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 and PSI. We'll swap all these out to average. Maybe it's quicker if we do it this way instead of at the very end. There we are. And then we're going to add the temp, tire temp. And let's just do tire temp to make it a little bit easier. Or you could just add underscore FH. That's an easy way to look for these, right? And then we click, 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 and click. That's not a bad way to do it either. It's up to you and how you feel like doing it. You will have to change all of these to average though. If you decide that you kind of permanently want them to come in as average, so you don't have to change stuff, just know that you can actually click on it here and change the summarization to average here. And that means anytime you add it to a visual, by default, it'll come in as an average. If that's something that you want to do because you're working hard on this and you're doing it all the time, that's fine. For me, it's a little bit time consuming to do that when I'm not going to really work on this much more. All right. So we have, man, this one looks really big, doesn't it? Average of PSI. Zero, 1, 2, and 3. Something looks weird. Is this really average? 0, 1, 2, and 3. Like 0 and 2, they look fine. 1 and 3, a million as the average. Come on. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at what's going on here. Underscore PSI. To make sure we have them all. Okay, 0. Oh, look at that. Okay, what do we see? Well, I'm glad we noticed this right now, and that's why I like looking at this stuff in tables, right? Is so you can see the real values. What happened here? If you notice, this first one here is, yeah, this 0. Oh no. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this first one is multiplying the bar by 0.14. In this one, I didn't multiply the bar. I multiplied just the raw value, which is in pascals, which is like, well, I don't know, 100,000 or something. You're supposed to divide this by 100,000 first. So just be really careful there. Don't make my mistake. I need to swap this to bar. For 2 is bar, I think, already. Is 3 bar? Nope, 3 is just pascals, so let's swap that out for bar. And now let's make sure, yeah, there we go, those look a lot better in PSIs. That means our Imperial units should now also be fixed probably somewhere around here. Yeah, these right here. Okay, great. So again, our fields parameters, how do we implement them? Well, here's where things are going to get very interesting. If I wanted to have a table of just tire pressures, then I could do that, right? So let's quickly do that for actually just kilometers and miles. Let's keep it really simple. So we're going to have a table down here that has a lap number, right click, don't summarize, and then speed in kph and in mph, and again the average and the average. Now if I wanted to only show one of these at a time, what would I do? I would create a brand new fields parameter and I would put both of them in there. So let's do that very quickly. I'm going to insert a new fields parameter, or sorry, in modeling I'll create a new parameter and say new fields parameter. Then I'll name this something like P, kph, mph. And then I'll find speed and I'll add in kph and mph, create it, and it auto creates a slicer for us to be able to choose from. So I'm going to add kph, click that, and it'll change, right? No. Why? Because I have to change this table to use this value now, not the raw values. So I'm going to remove these guys and I'm going to add the disconnected tables value instead. Now, I say disconnected table because if we look at our table model, we'll see that this is a completely disconnected table. And now I have to add the value here instead to the table. So when I add it, I can see it right here and I can swap between them. Here it's a speed miles per hour, speed mph, speed kph. Now, what is the problem? Well, the problem is that we have no average anymore. I can't right click on this and say average. So what do? Oh my gosh. Here's what I have to do. I have to click on this over here and set that aside. Here we have our formula for the kph and mph. Now I have to go, and this is where BownerSoup's point comes along. Now I have to create measures for these instead. So I'm going to create a measure that says speed kph average equals the average of speed kph. And I'll create one more for speed mph average. So speed mph average equals the average of speed in mph. And there we are. Now we have those measures. Now I need to change the formula for this fields parameter to use those instead. So I will highlight right here, and instead of name of that value, I'm going to say name of speed kph average. Close that name of, and for mph I will say speed mph average. Speed mph average. Now you'll notice that these no longer have the table name as a precursor to them or a prefix. That's because measures are global. Measures are report wide. So that's really important to know. And I'm also going to change the name here. Since we have speed mph and kph, I'm just going to switch this to kph and mph. That way it looks a little bit nicer. Now you'll see speed kph is still checked. That's just because I had it checked. As soon as I go away, it'll go away from that. So here we have miles per hour and kilometers per hour. Now we can easily swap between them. But how do I do that for all of these values? Well, it's kind of simple, but also kind of complicated. here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a new fields parameter, and we're going to call this one P metric Imperial. If I could spell Imperial. And now what are we going to do? We're going to go through and add every single one of the values that we want to swap over. Okay, let's do that really quick. Let's start with the metric units. So in metric, we have kph. We'll add those two. We have fuel. We have pressure, which we can just say underscore bar, right? Pressure and bar. And we have pressure, temp in temp underscore, so it's Tyre underscore temp, and 0, 1, 2, and 3. Now these are all our metric. Now we go back and we add them as imperial units. So we'll go back to speed, and we'll say MPH and MPH average. Then, and you want to make sure you try to do this by category, like in order of category, because if not, you're going to waste a lot of time in the next step, which I'll show you as well. So fuel we have in gallons, and then we have pressure again. We want to add the PSI versions this time. 2 and 1 more is 3. There we are. And the temp, we want to do the temp 0, 1, 2, and 3. Now it asks us if we want to create a slicer. We will go ahead and do that, and we'll hit create. Okay, so now it created a slicer for us that allows us to select which values we want, and we can see them all here in this big old formula. That big old formula basically is what powers this slicer. So I'm going to make this slicer kind of go up here, and then I'm going to change this grid down below to, instead of using that one, it's going to now use the P metric imperial value. And you can see it has all the values. Let's get rid of this guy because we don't need it anymore. We can always add it back if we need to. But here we have all of the values, both metric and imperial. Are we done? No, not at all. Now we have to go back and categorize these. And this is, again, one of the hidden features. I don't know why I said again, because I never explained it in the first place. But this is one of the hidden features of fields parameters, is the fact that you can categorize them. Now, it's not apparent how until you start doing it. So what we're going to do is we're going to press shift, hold shift and press enter, and we will have this as metric. We'll just have a metric comment, and then down here you can see I start imperial, so I will do imperial here. Now how do I, that's not enough. These are just comments. How do I really categorize them? Well, there is, like, here's where we have to pretend right now that we have a shopping trolley or a shopping cart, or I don't know, a moving cart full of stuff, and we're gonna run full speed into a wall and hope we come out on the other side where there's a big old train station that's waiting for us. So I'm gonna press comma here, and I'm just gonna say the word metric. This is the fourth argument to the fields parameter function. They have the name, they have the column you're referencing, they have the order, which is that number, and then last is the category, which is value. It's going to be known as value 4, or the fourth argument. I'm going to copy this and paste it everywhere before the parentheses. Before the parentheses. All the way down. Like so. And now these are all categorized as metric measurements. And then we're going to do the same thing in the imperial section. And again, copy this and paste it before the parentheses. Very, very important, before the parentheses. Now, if you're here and you realize that there was an issue with the order that you brought things in, and you see that some stuff in metric is here, some stuff is imperial here, you can always move it down, like cut this and move it all the way down here, that sort of thing. Just be careful about two things. Number one, this order here is basically the order in which you'll see the values when you put them in the visual. So you have to change this to be like order 22. And second is, you need to make sure that if you add something to the bottom, there's a comma after this right here, because this was known as the last one. You have to swap the comma from here to here. So just know that that's something you want to make sure you pay attention to. All right, so we have our metric section and our imperial section done. We have it categorized. What now, right? Now we'll click commit, but before we do, pay special attention right up there. P metric imperial has only one value here. P metric imperial. As soon as I click commit here, you'll see value 4. And again, that's the fourth value, the hidden value, the one we ran full steam into a brick wall with. That is our category. I'm gonna click and we will see value 4, and there it is. Now I like to rename this one to just be category, like that. That way I know what I'm working with. And now what do? Did this solve everything? No, you still have to add that value right here. See all these values? If I just add category right above, right there, look at what happens. Imperial and metric are now the only two values available. And when you expand here, that's when you see all the imperial values right here and the metric values here. But the reality is, I only care about just clicking the imperial button and having all of them show, and clicking the metric button, having all of them show, right? So I'm going to click imperial, and now you can see all of them are imperial. I go to metric, all of them are metric. So I can actually just remove this P metric imperial and get rid of it altogether. And now, whenever I click imperial, all of them show. Whenever I click metric, all of them show as well. So that means that I can make this a button. And I'm going to switch this to be a tile instead. You can use a button slicer if you so desire. That's absolutely fine. So now what we can do is click on imperial or click on metric, and that bottom one will change. These two are just imperial or metric. That's it. In the before time, as I said, we used to just make these like over the top of each other and hot swap them with bookmarks so that you would think you were seeing the same thing, but you weren't. So this is a much easier way. Field parameters helps you with that. So not only can you add that there, but let's say I wanted to do it to this one here, to this graphic or this graphic, right? What would I do? Well, let me take this graphic and bring it over here. Right now, this graphic is in miles per hour. And I want to be able to swap it from imperial to metric, right? Of course I do. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take this same graphic and I'm going to apply it right here. Take this P metric and imperial and put it here. Spoiler alert, this is not going to work, but I have to sound enthusiastic. Oh wait, it does work. Imperial, metric, imperial, metric. Isn't that cool? So, what do? The only reason that this did work, by the way, is because of the fact that we already had one selected. Now, let's show you when you build this from scratch, it does not work. So let's show you what that looks like right now. I'm going to go ahead and add the same exact visual right here. I'm going to add the lap number. PowerBI, you always surprise me. Okay, here I'm going to add lap number, and then I'm going to take that same visual. Remember, what we're doing is P metric imperial, P metric imperial. I'm going to swap that. I'm going to add this right here, y-axis. And now we just have nothing. We have some random values. 179.1. It's just the speed. It's just the speed. That's all we get. We can't have any other value. What happens if maybe we'll be able to swap it out? And this is me now genuinely curious. Like if I say, okay, well, what if we want to swap out the fuel? If I add the fuel as fuel like this, and then I add this fields parameter, will it swap? Nope. It just swaps between miles per hour and kilometers per hour. That's it. There's nothing else you can do with this. So there are certain times in which field parameters are a bit more limited. Right now you're kind of like, okay, well, how do I have it swap? How do I have it swap easily between the two? And here is where we're going to start to get a little bit creative. Now, I'm going to leave this here. I'm going to erase this because there's really no need for you to see it. It doesn't work very well. So this, it does work. This is absolutely fine. So we're going to leave this simple page right here. But now let's try to see how we can make our fields parameters, or really, we're not using fields parameters anymore. We're going to use a different method, and we're going to see how that works out for us. So going back to this one, instead of fields parameters, I can kind of name it just dynamic. Fields parameters would work, folks, if all you were doing was just one value at a time per visual. So if you were just trying to control kilometers versus miles, or liters versus gallons, and you had buttons for each one of those, yeah, of course you could do that, no problem. And just know that if you're willing to do that, like have a box down at the bottom that says, you know, unit conversions, and you can swap out whichever unit you want, that's absolutely fine. But if you want to be able to control imperial and metric and have everything swap over, that's where we're going to have to go into this next step. All right, so we have this dynamic page, and the first thing we're going to have to do, let's just go back here so we can show. Here's the same example where I have the table. Now when I go to fields parameters, what you'll actually see is when I swap out from imperial to metric, check it out. The speed changes from kilometers to miles right here. The fuel changes from gallons to liters, or it did for this one. And this right here, this tire temperature changes from Celsius to Fahrenheit. That's not magic, and that's not even field parameters. That's actually a completely different functionality, which is similar enough to fields parameters, but it's not exactly the same. So how do we make it? Well, let's quickly create a disconnected table. What we're going to do is we're going to go to the data area or the table view, whichever one you feel like, and we are going to enter data right here. And we will go ahead and enter unit, or maybe just category. Maybe category like that. We'll name this table unit of measurement, or UOM if you want to, that's fine too. And we'll say metric. We want to remove this column for now, and we want one more value called imperial, and it forced us to create a new one. Let's delete that and hit load. Now we have a table, and all the table is just two values, two records, right? Let's take a look at it right here. Unit of measurement has just metric and imperial. That's it. So when we go over here to the data model view, we will have unit of measurement here. Now, again, how do we have it swap out on multiple visuals, on multiple different metrics? How do, no pun intended with metrics, but how do we swap out multiple metrics to use the correct unit of measurement that the user selected? Well, all we have to do, all we have to do is we take the value here and we create a brand new column. And to do that, what we're going to do is we are going to take a miles per hour and a kilometers per hour column, and we'll swap it, or create our new grouping for it. So we'll say we're going to call this something like speed average selected value. Oh, I'm not creating anything, aren't I? I'm going to create a new measure. This time it's going to be a measure, and I'm going to name it speed average selected. And what does that mean? It means, and I'm going to write a comment here, average speed in the unit of measurement selected. And what are we going to do now? We're going to write, if you're familiar with Excel, a switch statement, or programming in general. We're going to write a switch statement that says, hey, the selected value of the unit of measurements category value, based on that, if it is imperial, then we want the average of speed in miles per hour, and if it is in metric, we want the average of speed in kilometers. And otherwise just put 0 or something that we know there's something wrong. All right, and there we are. Now we have the average speed selected, and now I can actually go here and I can say I'm gonna swap this one out, average speed. I'm gonna swap it for my new value, and I'm just gonna look for anything that's underscore selected, and here I'm gonna swap this in. And right now there's nothing selected, so it says 0. Our warning system is kind of working. So what do we do to swap that, or to fix that? Now what we're going to do is take our unit of measurement table. There's a category there. We are going to take that and put it into a slicer. So we'll create a new slicer right here, and we'll drop the category in there. And now let's watch this one right here. Right now, imperial 64 miles per hour, metric 104 kilometers an hour. So now we are okay. Let's see if we can get a little bit more creative and change the slicer header to be a function based on a field value. Yeah, we can do that. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, we take our selected underscore selected value, and we're going to copy the formula here. And then we're just going to create, is it going to be a measure? I guess it's going to be a measure. Let's find out. We're going to say speed average selected, and we're going to call this label. And if it's imperial, then we will say MPH. If it is metric, we will say KPH. Does that work? And then if it's 0, we'll say NA. Oh man, I hope this works. All right, so right down here. Hey, thank you for following Tula Cerami, I think. Thanks for following. Hope you are enjoying the stream, and hope you are finding this informative. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Feel free to ask away, and I will do my best not to take 3 hours explaining the answer, which I tend to do, but I just want to make sure y'all have the answers you need. So, all right, so let's see if we can change the label, right? The category label. We were trying to get, nope, it's the call out value. Oh man, you can't do it. I think you can't do it. That is really annoying. Or can you? Can we do it? Can we do it? Maybe we can do like a custom label. Let's see. Title. If we turn on the title and then we say the text right here, Let's see if we can add the text here. Field value underscore selected label. Does that work? Yeah, look at that. It sure does. And there we go. Let's see. Let's see if we can make this title way smaller, like an H. And then can we put like the position is underneath or something? I guess not. I guess we can't. That's okay. You know what we can do though? Change this to say speed in mph and speed in kph. This is yeah, we can do that like that. And speed mph, speed kph. The problem with this though is that we have to name this average like that. Maybe let's say if we name it average, if we name it average speed, then we go back and change the title. This is more work than I wanted it to be, but hey, whatever. Label, we're already here. So here we'll name it just mph and kph like that. And let's see if it helps us. So this is mph here, and when we switch to metric, does it switch to kph? It sure does. The title now says kph, so that's good. Let's show it one more time here. kph and mph. All right, that's great. Average speed still holds there, so we are good to go. But here's the issue, right? The issue is we technically have to do this for the minimum, average, and maximum speeds, not the label. The label, I'm gonna go ahead and actually just remove the average, and I'll just say like that. I'll just give that a value instead. So the label, we can just reuse it for anything. We don't really have to put the speed label or name it, you know, really name it even average or minimum or max. Let me just go ahead and create the minimum ones, right? So here we're gonna create a new measure, and we're gonna call this measure the same thing, but we're gonna say speed min. And then here where it says average, I'm just gonna name this min and this min as well, and everything else can pretty much say the same except this right here. That's just a comment, so it doesn't really matter. Now the cool thing is, I hope I can format this to be the same format with the title. Does it work? Nope. I have to add the title up here. So I'm gonna go to the title, go to FX, base it on a field, and just say underscore selected. Speed selected label, there it is. And now that's still kilometers, which matches this kilometers, but now I have to swap out the value here for speed min selected and change this to min speed. And now let's see if it works. Imperial switches to miles per hour, -2, which is fine. If we go to like lap 2, oh god, that's even worse right here. That's not good, is it? Metric, does that work? No, it does not. What happened? Let's see if we can work something out here. If we go back over here, this value is also doing some weird stuff, right here. What's going on? Let's find out if this is a problem with the way we're multiplying instead of just the actual data. mph is what we want. Wait, speed mph, what's going on? The speed times 0.62, speed in kilometers times 0.62. That's the speed in mph. When we say minimum, we mean minimum. And what's going on? We're gonna have to take a look at this data in a table for lap 2. Oh, I know what this is. This is I spun around and went like a zillion miles an hour in the wrong direction, or like maybe spun around so much. I believe this was lap 2 when I hit the curb coming out of Radeon. I hit a curb trying to get on the Camel straight as possible, and I spun around a bunch. There's nothing wrong with this data. I can attest to that. There's nothing wrong with this data. It was just in lap 2 I hit a weird issue. So I'm gonna leave it as is. This is absolutely fine here. And then let's do the max, right? The max is the last one we have to do. So selected, we're gonna look for our selected. We're gonna copy the average selected. I'm glad we took a look at that, because that'll answer any questions anyone may have later on when they're looking at this and going, why is that weird complicated formula on my speed? So speed max selected, I'm going to switch this to max, and we basically switch anything that's average, we switch it over to max. And there we are, we have our new column, and we're going to go to the max cart up here, and here's our max selected, which we can swap out now. And here we're going to just say max speed, and we're changing the title to also have the unit of measurement, which we can do right here in selected, speed selected label. And there we are. Oh, that formatting, we need to fix that, right? Use the format painter, make it smaller, and now we are good to go. Anytime we swap from Imperial to Metric here in our dynamic page, it's all gonna swap. So let's go ahead and do that again. Thanks, Saribot, you're the best. All right, so let's do that again for temperatures. Oh no, let's do fuel. Fuel's where we need to be right now. It's pretty standard and easy. We're gonna swap it from gallons to liters dynamically, the same way we were doing with the selected. So again, we're gonna grab the speed selected, and we're just gonna copy that formula. That formula is working for us. We're gonna create a new measure, and instead of speed min selected, we're gonna say fuel min for selected, and this is gonna be the min fuel in the unit of measurement selected. Unit of measurement is gonna stay the same. Now here is gonna be, instead of the minimum of speed, it's gonna be the minimum of fuel in gallons for Imperial, and the minimum of fuel without any suffix for the Imperial. There we are. And we're just going to say commit. And now I get to swap this one out with the fuel min selected. And I'm just going to swap this out for fuel. No, this is going to say min fuel. And now it's going to go from here, which is right now in liters, to Imperial, which is in gallons. Now, here's where you're at a crossroads, and it really depends on you. Are you going to take the new fuel one and use that as your template, or are you going to keep going with the min and max and use that? So let's do both of them. First, I'm going to take this fuel function, and now I have to swap out the fuel. When I create a new measure, I swap out the fuel min for fuel AVG, change this to AVG, change this to AVG, and change this to AVG. Did that work? Nope. I have to switch it to average, the word average. Average. There we are. And now we have an average fuel. And we're going to swap out this guy with our new average fuel. Rename it to average fuel. And just confirm that metric switches it. Yes, it sure does. There we are. And now for our max, let's do it the other way. Tikari, hello. Hope you're well. Hello, Tikari says, hello. How are you getting the telemetry with Motec? That's one way you can get it. The way I get it is I pay for an app called SimRacing Telemetry. I will leave their website here, https. It's simracingtelemetry.com. I pay for Automobilista 2 and for Assetto Corsa Competizione, and I also have F123. They support lots of different games. The only one I'm waiting for, I think, is Le Mans Ultimate, but I don't really play it that much, if I'm completely honest. and it sounds like things are kind of shaky over there anyway. But I basically use SimRacing Telemetry. I record all of my sessions. As you can see, there's quite a few of them here. I record my sessions with Assetto Corsa Competizione as well, right here. And at the end, I get a, or really for whichever one I want, I get a CSV export. So I can use this button to CSV export, and it gives me a file. Now for 5 laps, just 5 laps with my supercart against all sorts of other classes, like Copa trucks, F1 cars, Indy cars, all sorts of other ones at Spa, just for 5 laps, I got 40,000 records. 40,000 records. That is a ton of data. So it's capturing data. I think you can change it, but I think it's capturing data like at least 10 times a second. So a lot of data looks alike, but as you know, because you referred to Motec, you need as much data as possible so you can analyze everything as deeply or as broadly as possible. So SimRacing Telemetry is the one I use. I am a paying customer. This video is not sponsored by SimRacing Telemetry. I happen to have chatted with them every now and then because we were talking about these reports that I make, and they let us know on Reddit that they had a new version out, so that's why I was exploring the new version and seeing what else I could find in here. As far as I remember, they said nothing changed about the telemetry with this newest update. It was all about the actual stats that are available right here inside their app, inside their UI, and also inside the game. I think they have some features as well. So they have trials if you want to start a trial with them and download the same data. If you want me to give you some data from this, I'd be happy to. Just reach out to me on a whisper or reach out to me at sequeldevdba.com. You can fill out a contact form there, comment on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube and you want some data. Let me know and I'll send you a couple CSV files. If you want me to custom make some stuff for you, like, hey, I want this track, hey, I want this car, and I want it against all these other cars, I'd be happy to do that too. I get to have fun while making data for these reports, which is super fun. All right, so welcome again, Tikari. Hope you're well, and thanks for the question. All right, I think we were doing, let's do some quick titles up here, right? We have our KPH and MPH titles, but we don't have our liters and gallons, right? So we want to make sure that we have that. So let's do gallons here. I was actually making the formula for gallons, but I was doing it the other way. There are 2 ways to do this. You can either copy the formulas for max, minimum, and average, or you could just copy the formulas that already have your value and then swap them. So I did the second one first, and now I'm going to do the second version, which is take the maximum of speed, copy that formula, create a new measure, and then swap this for fuel instead. Fuel average, is it fuel gallons? Yeah, it'd be fuel in gallons for Imperial and fuel for metric, because the fuel without anything is liters. So this I'm going to change for fuel and max fuel. I find this version a little bit more confusing. I'd rather go ahead and just change it. I'd rather just go ahead and change one that I've already created that has the column that I'm looking to aggregate. So you have a personal preference, I'm sure. This is just what I'm thinking. All right, we're gonna swap that value out and say fuel max selected. Here it is right here, and I'm gonna rename that to max fuel. And there we are. Now, when I go to Imperial, I'm showing miles per hour and liters. Miles per hour and gallons. When I go to metric, I'm showing kilometers per hour and liters. Now, these 3 cards need a title to show in kilometers so that we know what units we're working with. Let's do that dynamically as well. Thanks very much to Seribot for banning another spam user. You are the best, Seribot. Let's see. Did I already make a fuel selected column. No, I didn't. I have to go to the selected and say speed selected label. I'm gonna grab that formula, make a measure out of it, and say fuel selected label. Fuel selected label is gonna be here. I'm just gonna say fuel in the unit of measurement selected, and this is going to be imperial, we know as what? Gallons, and metric is liters. Let's do the full word just because it's a bit easier. All right, so now we have a title here, or we will have a title in a second once I add it. Title, text, and then we will say the field value that we want is underscore selected, and that is the label. It's fuel selected label. I'm gonna hit OK, and now we can see, if I format it correctly, we can see that this is now measured in liters. We're gonna do the same thing to the other two. This is tedious, folks. It's tedious. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, I don't even have to lie to you. You can see it here. Just be ready, right? Because it's very tedious to do. So just know that that's what's in store for you. But all in the name of user experience. Again, that's what we get paid for, is to make a good user experience, and that's what we're doing now. And I'm just going to search for label this time and say fuel, hit OK, and then I can format these to be the same size. And now we have our liters, kilometers per hour, and when we go to imperial, we have gallons and miles per hour. So now we get to apply it to this one right here, max of speed by lap number. So I'm going to go ahead and release this one for the laps. And now here, the speed, I want it to dynamically change to kilometers when I'm selecting metric, right? Right now, it just shows miles per hour, even though all this other stuff changes. So what do? Well, right here, all I have to do is change this guy to show based on the value. So here, I'm just going to search for max speed, max selected, and that's what I'm going to drop right here. I'm going to get rid of the other one, and here I'm just going to say speed, max speed, like this. And now it says max speed by lap. I'll just change this to lap right here. And now when I switch to imperial, it is now in miles per hour. Switch back to metric, and it's in kilometers. So is there any way to change a label here so that I can truly see what the unit of measurement is? I think I might be able to do it in like the subtitle. Let's see if the subtitle, I can make it a little bit dynamic like this. And then I'll search for label, right? Label, speed selected label, hit OK, and there we go. The label's a bit, the subtitle is a bit big. Let's see if we can make this 8 instead. Now, when I switch, there we go, kilometers and miles per hour. That's not bad. Let's do the same thing for fuel. Now for fuel, I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of this constant line. It's going to make a mess. Unless you want to make a constant line for metric and a constant line for imperial, that's cool too, and you can have them hot swapped here. As you can see, this is a function too, so you can do that. I'm just going to go ahead and remove it altogether because it's going to start to get a little bit messy if I don't. So I've removed the constant line. What I want to do is get the fuel, and then I think I just had max fuel. So here's fuel max selected. That's the column I'm going to replace this with right here. And so I'm going to rename this to lap. I'm going to rename this to max fuel. And now I'm going to add the title. So again, this title here, I'm going to skip the title itself and go straight to the subtitle. I'm going to, it says by lap as the subtitle by default. That's pretty cool, but I don't want that. I want the label, underscore label. To get it, here's the fuel, hit OK. And now we have it in liters. I'm going to switch to size 8 or so. And now when I go back to imperial, I see gallons. When I go back to metric, I see liters. there's that. We have the map as well, right? So let's do the map. The map is a little bit different. Now the map, it actually doesn't show my speed anywhere. And really one of the first things I want to do is actually just get rid of these Y and X titles. They're really not necessary, right? The values nor the title are necessary. And the values nor the title are necessary here. Technically speaking, I can just do that. Now you will see that it's a bit close to the left side here. That's okay. I know exactly why that's happening, and it's because the world position is very dynamic. And so if I wanted to have like a limiter, as I was turning off the values, that's when I noticed. So if I turn the values back on, you can see here that we reach to about the peak of 639 as our X maximum, or all right, here we go. X reaches to about 1059 and Y reaches to about 703 as our tip top. So what we would want to do is set our range to be whatever the minimum and maximum value is plus a few. That would make our life a little bit easier instead. But I'm just going to leave it like this. I'm going to turn off the values altogether like that. X goes away, Y goes away. You could have this with like a nice gray background as well, just so that you can see things correctly. The title isn't really needed either, right? You could get rid of that and just have it be white. That'd be fine. Just like this would be okay. If you want to have some labels, you can, but this would be okay like this. All right, as long as you don't put too much space. And if you really want it to look even, what you could do is actually just surround it with a new shape. So I'm going to say insert shape like this. Make that shape white. So I'm going to say the color needs to be white. The border also needs to be white like this. And then I would put that shape sort of around this shape like this, and then move the shape using view selection, which is right here. I would move the shape all the way to the bottom, and now it kind of looks a little bit more even, as you see. If you want, you can move the shape around a little bit like that, and it looks even more even. So there's other ways, there's creative ways to center things. So I would probably just do that instead of anything else. All right, so let me pop a quick save here. And let's move on to tire temperatures. And again, I want you to completely understand this. We are no longer using Fields parameters. Just to be very, very clear, this Fields parameters, it's great and it works for like even groupings, right? So here, if you look at the table on the bottom, I was able to use it here. But Fields parameters have their limit. And the limit for this one was the fact that I wanted to be able to pop specific fields from the grouping into specific visuals. That is not going to work with Fields parameters. And the way we went about it instead was, number one, creating a disconnected table called unit of measurement. You can see the table unit of measurement right here. Just has two values, metric and imperial. Then I didn't even link the table to anything. As you can see, everything's still disconnected. And here you can see the two Fields parameters tables as well. But then we had brand new measures that I tagged with underscore selected. And those use whatever the current selected value of imperial or metric is to determine which value to use. We just happen to be all depending on that metric or imperial selection in order to display their value. And that's what makes it look like it's all super dynamic in Fields parameters-y, but it's really not. So be very aware of that. Know that you are not using Fields parameters. There. All right. So let's move on to tire temperatures. We're going to do tire temperatures. And I wish I could say this is very quick, but it's really not. But hey, again, that's why you get paid the big bucks. Okay, so we're gonna go to whatever field this is using. What field is it using? I just have to hover over here. It's gonna say Tyre Temp 0 FH, and 0 means front left, as we know. So this is currently using the Fahrenheit. We want to make it use the Euler. We want to make it use the dynamic value. So what are we going to do? Well, we have a couple selected type formulas already. I kind of want to just steal those because I don't want to work too hard. I got some pizza to eat, or maybe you have pizza to eat. I think we're making soup today, if I'm completely honest. So I already have some. What we're going to do is click the average area. Okay, so the average area, we're going to grab fuel average selected. We're going to grab the formula from it, and we're just going to swap the values to be the temperature, or the tire temperature. So we're going to create a new measure. Got a small itch there in my nose. There we go. All right, so we have average fuel in the unit of measurement. No, that's not accurate at all. This is I'm just going to change this comment to depending on the unit measurement selected. So this is going to be tire temperatures. Yeah, tire temp average selected. Yes, that's what I want. Oh no, tire temp 0 average selected, because we have to make 4 of these, ones for each tire. So for Imperial, we're gonna say tire temp 0 Fahrenheit, and for metric, tire temp 0, and that's it. So now we should be able to switch them. Now, the good news is for these 4, I don't have to make a min and max. All I have to do is make an average. And if you're doing that, you might be able to sort of sneak in some fields parameters in use. But for now, I just found that disconnected tables just work way more and way better for me. So that could be your option there. Tire temp 0 average selected. I'm going to drop that right here. And here, I'm just going to name it front left. That's it. Front left. And then here, I'm going to make another one and call this 1. And let's just do all the measures first. Here's 1. And I'm going to do 1. Forgot the underscore. And 1. This is front right. So we're going to swap this out for front right. And just rename it to FR for front right. Right click, new measure. We're gonna paste, and this is number 2, which is the rear left. 2 and 2. And we'll do one more measure, and then we'll swap them both out at the same time, both the rears. Here we're doing 3, which is the rear right. Remember, they go 0, 1, 2, 3. They don't go 1 through 3, 4. 0, 1, 2, and 3. All right. So we have our 2 and 3. We're going to swap into 3 right now and call it RR. If you have the room, you can just say front, front left, the words. That's absolutely fine too. And RL, rear left. There we are. Okay, great. So now we have all 4 of our tires, and now we have to test, right? This is right now in Celsius. So we have to test, does it go to Fahrenheit when we swap it? And yes, it does. 105, 110, 109, and 103. And again, we can see this by lap as well. So that's important to know. When we switch back to metric, we can confirm as well. Ooh, wait, no, we can't. This one right here, it's still missing. I think I did all sorts of like visual stuff, but I forgot to swap this one out, right? So the question is, can I swap out the color? Yes, I can. There's my function. This is going to be an interesting one. This one, I have to keep in mind that the function I want to use is the speed selected. Average speed selected. Or is it max? It's max speed selected. So let's see if we can do that. I'm going to swap this out and say underscore selected. and say it's the speed average selected. Ooh, I don't think it lets me do a sum anymore. Oh no, this is, I want the max. I want the max. Speed max selected. And you'll see how this whole summarization, it went away. It's not because the value is incompatible now. It's because the value is already a maximum. There's nothing you can't aggregate. You can't say the max of the max. You technically could, but it's worth nothing. And so PowerBI just disabled that. And so let's see if this works for us. Now we have speed max selected is in, we don't know, but we can only assume that because 144.62 is the max here and 144.62 is the max here, that's correct for miles per hour. And this 232.74 matches the maximum speed that we have on the left. So we're a match. What we have to see is if we can change the label of these markers at all. I don't think you can. I don't think you can. Categories. Ooh, no, we definitely don't want to do that. Color by category. Is that gonna work at all? No, it's definitely not gonna work. Category label. Hey, we found something. Turn that on. Oh no, yeah, we don't want to do that. That's pretty cool though. Man, I wish I could make that work. Anyway, let's see. Anything we can do here to change the name of the legend? Title? Ooh, there it is. Okay. So we can't do that. But it's okay. It's okay. I mean, speed, we'll say max speed. There's nothing to make this dynamic, unfortunately. Let's see if the subtitle allows us to, perhaps. If we turn the title back on and we just name it something like max speed here, and then we turn on the subtitle, that we can make custom. There we go. Okay, so the subtitle we can make custom based on, again, the label underscore label and speed selected label. And let's see if that works. Yeah, it sure does. Okay, so max speed in kilometers and Imperial switches to miles per hour. We're good to go with the map. We're good to go with the bar. We're good to go with the fuel. Now it's just about tire pressures. So let's make sure we resolve that. And man, I think after that, oh no, we got one more thing, the lap times. Let's worry about the lap times in a second. I'm gonna move this guy over here and I'm gonna give it a format of buttons instead. So tile like this, and just move it over here. Imperial and Metric. There we go. I'm gonna make sure I can do a forced selection. I think in the slicer settings there's a single select like that. There we go. Make sure it's selected there. All right, so tire pressure is the last one, or the last one that we have to make dynamic. We're gonna go ahead and steal average tire pressure, average tire temp from the pressure. So we'll right click, new measure, and we will paste, and here it'll be tire press 0 average selected. Tire pressure 0 average selected. Yes, and that'll be right here. It'll be press as well. Tire press 0 psi for Imperial, and tire press 0 bar for Metric. And I think that works. Let's do that. And we will drag it right here to front left. There we are. And I think that works. Let's switch to metric. Yeah, it sure does. All right. So now I'm just going to grab the function from here so I don't have to keep changing the column. I'm just going to switch it to 1. Press 1. Press 1 and press 1. Do it again for 2. Press 2. Press 2. Press 2 for Spanish. Press 2. And one more for 3. Press 3. Press 3. I sound like an ophthalmologist or an optometrist. 1 or 3. Now 3 or 4. It's always the same. I'm blind, sir. Just you know, give me my prescription again. There we go. So now we're gonna swap out these. Tire press 1 goes to FR, so we'll switch that to FR. We have tire press 2 goes to RL, and tire press 3 goes to RR. There we are. All right, so now let's switch them back, and we are good. We made all of those values dynamic. Every single one of them is now dynamic, and that means, technically speaking, we can toss these other 2 pages. We don't need them anymore because the user will now be able to filter or swap between Imperial and Metric just in this page. That means we only have to publish 1 page at all. So that's a huge win, but it's a lot to get here, folks. It is a lot to get here, right? I'm gonna go ahead and flip this on. I'm going to publish this to data-driven sim racing. In its current state, I want anyone who wants to go ahead and check this out. So I'm gonna publish it. I'm gonna go to it. Oh, I forgot we added that semi-hilarious title. It's only semi-hilarious because I know you do that. I know you name stuff final this one, don't delete v4. All right, so what I'm gonna do is actually publish this report to web. Stop right here. Let's stop. Don't do this if it's real data you're working with, if it's like company data, private data, whatever. Every single time I do this on stream, I stop and warn you. Sometimes you listen and sometimes you don't. Do not publish this data if it's not your data that you can feel free to share. If it is company data, you cannot do this. Don't publish it to web, at least not here using this. All right, I'm gonna hit continue. It's gonna warn me like 3 times. Do not publish confidential or proprietary information. This is serious, folks. You do not want to get sued. And I'm gonna copy this that we just got and paste it. Paste it somewhere. It looks like I can't get over to the chat. Oh, maybe I can. Let me see if I can paste it here. No, I sure can't. Let's try that again. I'm gonna go back to PowerBI. Right here. I'm gonna copy this. And okay, I can't get to that window, but maybe I can get to this one. No, the remote app just does not work right now. So how do we do this? Oh, maybe I can go in Safari. Let's take a quick trip over to Safari. You're not taking a trip with me, but I promise I'm taking a trip right now. Okay. Copy that and then put it maybe over here. And it just does not want to paste. Copy. Considering Safari is just kind of dead. All right, well, it doesn't. Oh, wait. There we go. Okay. All right. Now you should be able to see it. I'm going to go ahead and reload this page here because it looks like my Safari decided to quit. So I'm going to, yep, I'm going to quit that. Please hold. This one, man, that's weird. I'm gonna have to quit Safari. Is that a dumb thing to do, is quit Safari right now? I don't think so. Okay, and we're back. Or is it just my prompter? I think it's just my prompter that died, which is super weird. Let's see. Oh, it's Elgato running out of memory on everything. Classic Elgato. see, text, display. Nope, it's fine. All right, we're gonna continue, and I'll just monitor the chat on OBS Studio. I think we're good. Okay, so there's the link to the chat, or sorry, in the chat. There's the link to the report in its current state. You will be able to use the different functionality that it has to change the units over. You'll be able to see all the different pages that we've created. We're not going for like perfect design here, folks. We're just going for the functionality itself, because the functionality itself is really hard to begin with. So I'm not really worrying about the design right now. Let's tackle one more thing, maybe one or two more things. So the first thing is the speed by lap. This is really interesting right here, because not only do you see the min, average, and max speed, but you actually see sort of a graphical representation right in a matrix, and that's pretty cool. So I want to kind of recreate that, and what I'll do, let's see if we can make this happen. All right, so I'm going to create a small table here. Well, let's do it over here in the metric page, and then we'll see if we can do it for the dynamic page. Okay, so in the metric page, I'm just going to add some simple stuff here. Lap number, there it is. Then I'm going to right click and say don't summarize. Now I'm just going to add the min speed. Nope, that's not what I want. Speed in, we're metric, so speed in kilometers, and then I'm going to add it again and one more time. Now it's all sum. I want the minimum, I want the average, and I want the maximum speed. There they are right there. And now here I'm just going to rename this min speed, average speed, and max speed. Now I'm going to go ahead and add something called a sparkline, and I will insert sparkline, and I'm going to select the field, and that field is going to be the max speed. Let's say speed in kilometers, max, and the x-axis is going to be the something called the bin. The bin index is one record per bin index, so it's the only unique value, truly unique value in this entire data set. So if we create that, we will see that over the course of lap 1, this is what my max speed looks like. And right here you can see this is Eau Rouge and Raidillon and the Camel Straight, and then right here is this corner right here. So from the moment you have turn 1, which is basically almost like a U-turn towards the right, basically it's just flat out, and so your speed just keeps climbing and climbing and climbing. You'll see like a small dip sometimes, and that's me lifting through Raidillon, but for the most part the Camel Straight is just flat out, right? Unless, I don't know, you're spinning out like I was in the supercard. And I could even click on a particular lap and it'll filter the rest of the entire report by that lap, including this visual here, including the average, tire temperatures, and tire pressures. You can also just do that with this lap filter here, right? Lap 2, lap 3, lap 4, and lap 5. Lap 5 was just a cooldown lap, which I left anyway, so that's absolutely fine. All right. So let me undo this filter, let it go, and now we have our telemetry, sort of mini telemetry of our max speed right here. So I will rename this through lap, like that, max speed through lap. Is that okay? I want to extend that slightly, and then we'll add one more component to this, which is the time. Now luckily the time we don't really have to measure. We have the time here in milliseconds, and that is the lap time. We have the lap time in milliseconds, but it really doesn't make sense to us unless we put it into seconds, which you can do by just dividing it by 1000, right? That makes the number of seconds. I wanted to have it in the most user-friendly way I could. And so that's why you will see it. I think it's in this one. You'll see it. Nope. One more. There we go. Right here, this lap time. Now, this lap time is right here. It's a very complicated DAX formula that I came up with by ransacking other DAX formulas for time that I saw on the internet. I went ahead and just created my own based on a bunch of different ones that I saw, and you can see that I gave it credit too. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you have the PBIX, which will also be in the Google Drive, you can check out the website that I got this from, which was basically a community post on Reddit. On Microsoft.com. So I'm going to copy this formula and I'm just going to post it over here as well. I'm going to make a measure. And I just have to make sure I get the right data sets used, right? So this is really all you have to change if you're using this. Whatever you named your data set, you have to swap it here and make sure you're using the lap time column. And that's it. I just said commit. And now you could just add that right here. It's already a measure, so you don't really have to worry about anything as far as making it correct. This looks really weird though. I don't know why it's doing that. It's supposed to be a lot more dynamic than that. So let's see what is going on here. Because I don't think all my laps were that long. Or maybe they were. Man, that's way too close. That's way too close. Let's see what happened over here and why they weren't that way. No, they were like 250, 247, 356. These look a lot more correct. Oh, it's because of the lap index. Okay, so let's see what they really were. And that's the cool thing about SimRacing Telemetry, is that you can actually see what your laps look like right here. So if I go to Automobilista 2 and I open up the session that I had on 922 right here, I think it was this one, 5 laps, I could see my lap times: 250, 247, 356, 334, and that matches with these 250, 247, 356, 334. So let's see how we can make it match with the other one. I believe it might be the lap index that's causing it. Let's find out. Lap index. $139s. That's not correct. So I will not summarize here. And 139, still 139. That's super weird. Is there anything else over here that I missed? Let's find out. All right, we have the duration. We have our lap time right here. Was there anything that I missed on this one? No, it doesn't look like it. Lap num, lap index, and lap number. Let's see if maybe adding lap number does anything to this one. Lap number, which is lap underscore number. Nope, it's still being all weird. Is it looking at like the first values? That's just so strange. It shouldn't be doing that. Lap time MS. Am I using the wrong one? Let's see what this looks like. Max of 922. Let's copy the formula again. Maybe I missed something in the formula. Does this have anything? Yeah, let's just copy the formula again. See if something went wrong there. Even my formulas go wrong. Well, no, they always go wrong. Okay, max of this. Okay, I pasted it. Is it something with the fields that I'm using? That these are all averages? What does this look like when I just drag it in by itself as a card? Okay, this looks like it's almost a min. If I filter by lap 1, lap 2, see, this doesn't change at all. Oh, now that one finally went to 342. So something must be tricking it to be using the wrong value. Let's see if we can find anything about lap times here. Times 1000. Average. The duration of the lap. As an oh. Alright. So here's the problem, folks. You can copy stuff from one to the other. As you can see here, you can copy as much as you want, but you have to be cognizant of what you're copying and what sort of things you need to keep in mind. I just spent 5 minutes reviewing this, and the problem is this measure uses a value called lap time. Now, let's go over to that value. I'm going to search for it right here, and we can see it's right here. No problem. Let's go look for it over there, and we can see lap time is also right here. No problem. But what's the difference? The difference is that this lap time in the other report that actually works is a decimal number, and PowerBI decided the best course of action, because PowerBI knows best, was to make this a text value. So we're going to go ahead and swap it to a decimal number. We'll click yes, and lo and behold, now we have correct values. So be careful with your data types, folks. They will make you look very dumb on stream. So I'll just rename this to lap time, and now we have a lap time for each and every lap right here. Now let's take this and let's push it to the Imperial page as well. We want this on the Imperial page, and instead of min, average, and max speed here, what we want is speed in miles per hour. So just speed mph. We're gonna add it once, we're gonna add it twice, and we're gonna add it 3 times, here and here. Now here, what we're going to do is, I thought we added it 3 times. I guess not. This one's gonna be average, this one's gonna be max, minimum. So we'll drag that up here, and then one more time for max. Right click, max, and there's max speed. So max speed, that's not how you spell speed, speed. We have average speed, and we have min speed. And there we are. Now we have those. Sum of lap number is not something we need. We don't need lap index as well, right? So here we can just rename this to lap, min, average, and we're good. And let's redo this because I added them in a state of panic. We'll just rename this to lap, make it slightly smaller here, and this one can also be slightly smaller. And now let's copy this one to the dynamic and see what we can do with the dynamic version. Man, that's really annoying that my display agent kind of went away. It's kind of annoying there. This prompter is just completely gone, but I'm afraid to like unplug it and plug it back in. But anyway, that's fine. Okay, so let's try to make these all dynamic. The min, average, and max speed. How do we do that? This is where I actually have to think, which is a bit dangerous usually. Okay, so let's just focus on the min, average, and max speeds here and see what we added. Like what column did we add here in max speed? We added speed, max, selected. So let's see if we can just add speed, max, selected here. Speed, max, selected. And just add it. And then rename this to max speed. And then do this again, speed, min, selected, and just add that. Min, speed, and what's the other one? Average. Speed, average selected. Put that in the middle and just say average speed. Now, hopefully, when I switch from Imperial to Metric, these numbers will all change as well. Yeah, that worked. Okay. Now, one of the things that you'll see is down here, there's a totals bar. It really does not make sense. It's really just average of minimums. And this is just going to be really confusing, right? This is not the total. 356 is not the total for this. So let's go ahead and just remove the totals. To do that, I'm just going to click on this. I'm going to go to the total section and just hide it. That makes things a lot cleaner. It makes it so that there's less confusion. And so we'll do that for each and every one of these, just so that we don't cause any confusion here. All right, so I'm gonna go here, totals, and just remove them. All right, so what do we do now? Now we have to just kind of quickly indicate whether we're looking at kilometers or miles an hour, right? That's really important for me. And I want to make sure that the user doesn't have to bother, even though everything else just says kilometers and miles. We want to make sure that we are doing that. And speaking of which, I'm just going to go ahead and say that I could just use this like a card to say what category we're searching or what we're now showing, right? So I can say right here, say now showing units like this, and then here we're just going to make the call out value a lot smaller, so that'll be something like 20. Yeah, and then the label, we'll just bring it down to like 10, something like that. So now when we switch, we can easily tell whether we're looking at Imperial, Metric, and that's a little bit easier. So for column headers, I don't think there's a dynamic way to have column headers, see? So what we'll have to do is get a little bit creative and do the same thing we were doing in the title. Now the title needs to be here. The subtitle is probably something we'll want to change, right? That's what we were doing before. And here we'll say selected. Selected, it's underscore label is the data we want to look for. So speed, selected label, and hit OK. And now we have MPH as our label. If we search over the metric, we have a KPH as our label. So here, I'm kind of trying to leave it in a state where you can take over and work on the designs yourself. The reality is I'm not going to focus on the design today, because if I do, the stream will last another 5 hours. It hasn't been 5 hours yet, but it will be, I promise. So I don't want you to have to suffer through this. Instead, I'm kind of interested into what you do. So if you're here, or if you're watching this and you take over, because again, the file will be included for you. Let me go ahead and publish. The file will be included for you, so you can have a go at this yourselves. Right now, the folks seeing this on Twitch, all you can really do is see this. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy this link again and paste it for you, so you can check it out. But unfortunately, you can't have access to the PBIX yet. Mostly because I'm still working on it right now, right? I'm actively working on it. So for anyone who's in here, you can definitely see this version right now using the link in the chat. For those of you who are on YouTube watching this after the fact, you can go down there. The video description has a link to my Google Drive, and you can download the PBIX and the data right there. So I'm curious to see what you put together. Again, I only did these small visuals because it's easy to do. To just show you very quickly how I did that, I'm just going to take this. Actually, let's just go ahead and create a brand new shape just like this one. So here, I'm going to move these two down and just drag everything down with it, right? Here. Now, I'm going to move all of these down slightly. And then I'm going to move these top 3 up slightly. So what am I going to do? I'm just going to create 2 little shapes. The first one, I'm going to insert shape, rectangle. The shape is going to be a rounded rectangle. And 10 is the rounded corners. No, I think I did 5% last time. Then I'm going to change the style of the shape to very light gray. I think I had some transparency on here, so let me just check this guy. Yeah, 60% transparency. So this is a 60%er. Then I will make the border the same exact color, and I will wrap it around these guys here. There. Now, for this shape, I want to make sure it's close to the very bottom. So I'll go to the selection pane and drag it all the way to the bottom. And now you'll see that these backgrounds are now showing. Now, I'm just going to highlight all 3 of them. I'm going to go to General Effects and turn off the background. And now, right here, we have our speeds. And because of the fact that I have that shape, I'm just going to drag it down below here and use it again. I'm going to drag the shape all the way down so it's at the bottom layer. I don't think I did that right, so let me try again. And now again, remove the background from these 3 shapes. Go over here, go to the general area, effects, turn the background off, and now we have the fuel as well. So if I bring these down slightly towards the bottom of my shape I have here and do the same thing with these, now I can take the text box, and this same text box I can paste it up here, move it up here, make it as wide as the visual that it's representing, and that way you're guaranteeing the center is correct. So here I'm going to say speeds, and then I'll grab one more, put it down here, and then here I have fuel levels like that. And now when I switch, notice how I kept it to something very general, right? Speed, fuel. I didn't say anything about kilometers or about gallons or liters. I'll let this do the talking right here. Now, one thing, now that I'm on that, I did do it here, but these are dynamic, right? These are a bit more dynamic, so I can do that. Now, what I need to do is do the same thing for these guys. So let's quickly wrap that up here. I'm going to go to General, I'm going to go to Title, turn it on, and then go to Subtitle. Is it Subtitle that I use for these guys? Let me make sure. Nope, I used the title, so let's do the title. Title, and then I'm going to say the field you should base this on is _selected or _label, because we made the label. So this is Tyre Temp. There's no label for Tyre Temp, right? So let's make one. We have to make one. Now, to do that, I'm just going to copy the fuel or the speed label, whichever one you want to do. Copy that, right click, make a new measure, paste it, and I'll say here, I'll say temp selected label. When it's Imperial, then I'll say what is it, Fahrenheit? Isn't it like that with a random H in the middle? You'll correct me, right? Yeah, I know you will. Average temp. And now I get to use this measure right here in the label. There it is, temp selected label. I hit OK, and now it's here. I'm going to first center it and also make it 10. And now we have our title. Oh, this one was 8, so I'm going to switch this down to 8. And now we get to do it for everything, right? Technically speaking, I could probably make this like right here, Tyre Temp, and then whatever the label I have selected is, but it's okay. I think we can manage this. This isn't super hard or anything. Turn on the title, have it be selected, just a label. Let's look for the label, temp selected label, hit OK. Format painter, formats this the same way, and let's do it again here. It's up to you to decide what is easier, swapping out the columns that you use or just doing this a couple times. Either one, it's up to you. Turn on the title, make the title the label for tire pressure, or for temp, sorry. And there we are. And the reason I did temp is because technically you can do it for oil temperature, water temperature, all those. I'm not going to say tire temp label because that's really not what it is. It's a temperature label. Anytime we're showing metric, we are showing Celsius. Anytime we're showing Imperial, we're showing Fahrenheit. So you can reuse that label. You don't have to say it's tire temp only. So just keep that in mind. Save yourself some trouble. I'm going to go to one that is correct. I'm going to use the format painter to paint here and the format painter from there to paint here. And let's do the same thing for tire pressure. Here we're going to say, we're going to copy this measure, create a new measure, and we are going to paste this. And here it's going to be press selected label or just pressure, but I've already named everything pressure or press. So we'll just do that instead. So here in Imperial, pressure is in PSI. In metric, pressure is in bar. So we're going to do that. We are good to go there. Now we will make this the title. Go to text, go here, go to underscore label, and we'll go to temp selected label. Oh no, that's the wrong one. It's press selected label. Hit OK. And there it is. There's the bar. Turn it on for this one too. Label as well for press. Hit OK. Do the same thing here. I wish you could do like copy titles over, but you really can't. Not when you make them dynamic here. Or maybe you can, and I'm just out of touch. But 30 seconds is not going to kill me. If you're in a hurry and you found a better way, let me know. Because this is the only way I know how to do that when I want to add the same thing. So now what I'm going to do is make it small, right? 8 and centered. And now I don't have to waste time. Now I can take the format painter, paint this one, use that one to paint this one, and use that one to paint this one. All right, what's going on here? What's up with this guy? Did I just mess that up a little bit? Seems like I did. Here's where I start playing the game of alignment, it seems. Okay, this looks a little bit better now. Technically, if you want it, you could space this out. My goal here was to have like a set of tires or something in the background, like behind this as an image for both of these. And that way I'd be able to, you know, at least put some imagery of a car. But I think the only imagery I really need right now is this map. As long as I have this map, which we made earlier in the video. If you're here on YouTube, go back to the chapter that says adding map of track or something like that, but it's basically using a scatter plot with the world position X and world position Y, and that automatically creates the track map for our convenience. Okay, so again, I think we are okay. I think we're good to go. I think we covered everything that I had in mind to cover. Yeah, we covered all the field parameters. We covered the table. Basically, I'm going to go ahead and publish both versions of these. The reality is, it's up to you. You can choose to use field parameters. Just know when you're making something as complex as this, where you have to put those same values in multiple visuals and only choose certain ones, that's when you run into trouble. When it's just a simple table like this one, that's literally why I named this easy, is because, hey, now that's super easy. Let me go ahead and just put it down here instead, right? It's probably a better place. This is super easy to swap out, no problem. But when it comes to using those same values here in all these different visuals, that's when things get a little bit rough. And that's when you should employ the help of the disconnected table, which is a really simple table, as you can see here. Oh, that's not it. That's definitely not a simple table, right? Unit of measurement, just 2 values, and you are all set. And yeah, that's it. Hopefully you found this very informative, and hopefully it saves you a little bit of trouble here. Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and do my final stuff here. Go ahead and publish this report in the dynamic page. Should we add some credits? We totally should. Let's add some credits here. Pretty much crediting myself and SimRacing for the awesome data that they put together. So let's just quickly do a credit section, which is created date, created by. I'm just gonna say created live on Twitch, and then I'll put my Twitch address, twitch.tv/SQLDev-DBA. It does not want to do the link, so let's copy that and make it a link so that people can access it much easier. There we are. Created date today is 2024-10/06, and data created by SQLDev-DBA using SimRacing Telemetry app, which is available at SimRacingTelemetry.com. Like that, and then we'll make this a link too, like that. There we are. All right, so let's do something really quick just to make things pop slightly. I'm just gonna add a quick shape. I'm gonna add a triangle up here. I'm gonna flip the rotation of the shape. Is it here? Is it in style? No, it must be here. The entire shape rotation. I'm gonna rotate it 90 degrees and just bring it down slightly. That at least, if we can make it like gray or something, that at least gives it a little bit of effect. So here in the shape, the style, I'm gonna make it sort of gray. I'm gonna make the border the same color, and then I'm gonna give it a small shadow. And now this guy can at least have some company, so it doesn't look absolutely terrible. I'm gonna go ahead and what do I do here? Give it sort of a background as well. Not this guy, but the whole page. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a background of super light gray. That didn't work at all, did it? Okay, so I guess I picked the wrong thing. Wallpaper must be gray. There we go. Okay, so then I can make this background completely, just turn it off like that. Just make this all bold and slightly larger, 12. Add my logo. My logo is probably a good one to add. To do that, I'll just hit insert. There we go, and I'll insert a image. The image I'm inserting is inside my docs here for logos. I don't remember which one to add. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, and then to this logo, we're gonna go ahead and add an action. That action is going to be a web URL that goes to my page. SQLDevDBA.com. When the user clicks that, it'll be taken to my page. And then let's see if we can also add the SimRacing Telemetry logo. It has been a while since I've seen it, or since I've had it. So I'm gonna add SimRacingTelemetry.com. I'll just take a screenshot of this. And I don't want to, I want to make sure that this does not seem like I'm passing that logo off as my own, right? Like that's something that's really important to you. You need to make sure that you're not trying to pass this off as your art. And so I'm going to give credit right here in the credits to their logo, and it really just takes them to their page. So it's more like advertising for them, if anything. So here I'll go to the SimRacing Telemetry area. and I'll just say SRT logo. I will add that as a image from my SimRacing Telemetry folder. Like that. Add it right here, and then have the action be a web URL. And I'll reach out to them, and if they are not cool with me doing that, then I will 100% take it down. That goes to simracingtelemetry.com, and let's just make sure that that works. It absolutely does. Fantastic. And so does mine. Before I publish it, just want to make sure. Yep. All right. So image provided by SimRacing Telemetry. Website. SRT logo image. Okay, great. So I'm gonna go ahead and publish, and if I really wanted to, like, I could technically just add that same background for everything, right? This background was pretty simple, so it's never too late. I'm gonna go ahead and just grab this background here and push it to this page like this. I'll move it all the way to the bottom as well. This one you really have to put at the very bottom, and then the wallpaper is right here like this. So it's not perfect, but it's at least slightly more appealing than it was, 5 minutes ago. And technically all you would have to really do is turn all these backgrounds off and you'd be good to go. So that's one way you could kind of customize stuff is like that. So I'm just gonna go around turning some backgrounds off like this. This one's already off, but the shape itself, don't really need that anymore. And this background, I can go in here, general effects, background off, and now we can see that here. I'm gonna go ahead and Reading says, thanks for the stream, it's very helpful. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I am glad it is helping. Check out the YouTube replay. I'm gonna post it up on YouTube. If you are not subscribed to my channel on YouTube's, there's my links, so you can feel free to head over there and you will be able to catch the replay, catch this, and do it self-paced, because I know sometimes I tend to work a little quick. I try to take my time and explain as much as I can, but sometimes I do tend to go a little bit fast, so feel free to pause and continue at your own free will. All right, let's see if we can get all these backgrounds turned off and see if it's still usable, right? Yeah, that's not terrible. This guy right here is not fantastic, but hey, that's for another day. In fact, make this better. Send it back to me. If it's really nice, I'll feature it wherever you want me to feature it. On my website, I can have a special section of that. I'd be happy to feature your stuff if you make it really cool and are very proud of it. So, all right, I think we are good to go. Page 1 was, I don't know, let's just hide that guy because we don't really need it. Here's the Fields parameter, here's the dynamic page. This is the one I want to publish it from. So we'll go over here, we will publish, save, and let's try it again. We're gonna do it to data-driven sim racing. We'll select that, we'll go to replace, we'll open it up on the Microsoft web browsers, Edge, which is used to be my least favorite when it was Internet Explorer. Now, I gotta be honest, it's not that bad. Doesn't kill all your memory like most other browsers do. All right, here's a link to the report. You can feel free to check it out. Thanks to everyone for stopping by. Really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for the new followers we got today. And I'm gonna try to do this as regularly as possible. Again, sometimes I just do not have the time to do so, but very happy to have interacted with a few of you all today. and hopefully next weekend I can do that again. We will see how it goes. I'm trying to see if I have anyone to raid. All the channels are in Spanish that I can see rating, so I'm gonna take you to a very chill stream, which is called Gato Beats, which I listen to at work sometimes. So link is in the chat. If you're watching this on YouTube, links and docs and all that stuff are in the description. Thank you so much to everyone on Twitch for being here, and thanks so much if you're on YouTube and watching. Let's go ahead and go raid Gato Beats. If they accept raids, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And I will see you next time. Thank you so much. See y'all later.